Hi guys, how's it going? My name is Ellen, or you may know me as Hex. With me is HEX Lion, and welcome to HEX Crypto Sparbuchschau. How's it going, Patrick?
Everything all right. Hello, everybody. I hope you also had a great week and a nice Sunday. So, Ellen, what do we have today?
Today we have two really cool interview partners, Cabana Crypto and Whales Only. We have a lot of things to discuss. Everything is already provided by Whales Only, but we will come to that later on. First of all, hey, how's it going, Cabana and Whales?
Oh, it is great over here across the pond. How are you guys doing today? It's an absolute pleasure to finally be on with you. I've seen your show, and I mean, just great stuff with Kyle just recently, as a matter of fact, and also your wonderful presentation at the conference. So it's just an absolute pleasure to be here. So thank you for having both of us.
Same here,
My
guys.
pleasure.
Same here, guys. I'm just gonna basically piggyback off what Cabana said. I'm glad to be here. You guys taught me a lot. Also, believe it or not, during the HEX conference. So I'm definitely honored to be here. Been watching you guys for a while too, along with the rest of the community. So as always, I'm glad to be invited onto the stream to just keep sharing the important information that I think all Hexicans need to know.
Well, Wales, I'm really excited about your graphs later on. I already saw them. I'm not sure if I understand them, but that's what I want to ask you today.
That's
I think
why we are
you
here.
may have to explain a lot today.
Sure thing,
But,
no problem.
First, let us start with our normal questions we will ask every interviewer, and this would be Cabana Crypto. When did you get into contact with crypto in general?
Yeah, so I'm late to the game. I think Wales, we kind of share a similar path there in that sense. So I got in probably, well, I didn't get in, but my interest came about at the last Bitcoin peak. So when it first hit about 20,000 or so, that's everybody was talking about it. You see your friends talking about it, and it's just like, okay, what is this thing? Because I've been in traditional legacy markets for my whole life, pretty much since college. So I'm very familiar with the financial space, but the crypto thing, I just hadn't put much time into it, and that is where my interest began. And I was very patient. I did not get in at the top. I played around a little bit with maybe some Litecoin, dare I mention that, and some others. A little Ethereum, but really it's just about getting a feel for this fast-moving asset class, and stayed patient, waited for that first Bitcoin bottom. I think it was December of maybe 19. I'm not too sure. It was kind of a rounded bottom there. Started accumulating Ethereum as well, and pretty much just stuck with most of the major coins, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And as we all know, the Chinese Ponzi top of about 14K that hit, and then came all the way back down to the COVID bottom of just a little less than a year ago in March, and accumulated again then as well. And that's my crypto journey. Of course, Hex. I put a little bit in on day one because that I just wanted to say I did that and share that experience because it was a fraction of an ETH, but I did want to participate. And I had watched that project for a while with Richard's interviews. I had been a fan of his for a long time, and this particular crypto with sharing, I guess, basic concepts of a CD, certificate of deposit, time locking money, but the interest and game theory behind it and the potential that it has, as you guys have gone over in such great detail. And some of it I'm still trying to get my head around, even some of the things that Kyle says. He says he could do a better job perhaps of explaining it better. I think he explains it just fine. It's just people like me are trying to grasp everything that he says, because there is so much about Hex, and it's just a wonderful product. and I've been pretty much invested in the first, I want to say 50 days. I was lucky enough to be patient. Got in right around the bottom for my biggest stacks, and just been riding and learning and consuming content like yours and all the other great Hexican channels, and seeing guys like Whales Only just come about recently and all the great stuff that he's putting out. So it's just an exciting time to be here, and that's pretty much sums up my crypto journey.
Nice.
Awesome.
So, Wes, what about when did you came into crypto and also Hex?
Okay, so I'm kind of like I'm like an old person when it comes to crypto. I've been around since the start. The only issue I had was, I was in the military. I actually lived in Germany about 20 years ago, almost 18 years ago, almost at this point in time, for a couple of years from 2003 to 2004, 5, because I was stationed out there in Darmstadt. I lived in Darmstadt, which is like 20 minutes away from Frankfurt, which I'm pretty sure most people are familiar with.
Yeah.
So that kind of started really my path into finance and crypto, interestingly enough, because we have to remember that crypto became a thing really in 2009 because of the financial crisis, right? And I was in the military. I got out around the same time that Bitcoin basically was created. I was actually like hearing rumblings about it while I was working overseas in Afghanistan, of all places. And then by the time I get back to the United States in 2010, it was like already kind of live. So I knew it existed, right? The issue for me was being a part of the government. I knew that they were not, well, at least I thought I knew. I was under the presumption that the government didn't rely on the internet as much as it actually does. So under that presumption, I didn't take Bitcoin seriously. So I never put a single dollar in it, but I knew where it was going right? But the reality is, as we can see worldwide, governments don't care. They will put their neck on your throat if they can, right? And I've seen I used to live in Germany when it was a great place to live, right? Like I didn't even want to leave, but I had to. It's no longer the case, right? You can't.
That's the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, and I tried to like let people know when I was in. Nobody listens, but now they figured it out. I'm sure 20 years later. But the fact of the matter is you see something like this, it's shocking. You don't think that it can actually succeed because of what you've seen in your lifetime, right? And I think that the crypto space is just a testament to the fact that if you're a little more advanced in your thought and you have an open mind, right, you can see opportunities like Bitcoin a mile away. But again, I wasn't astute enough at the time to understand the severity of what that actually meant, right? And that's kind of why when I found Hex, which was about the end of October 2020, like literally a week before the end of November started, I literally bought 30 minutes after hearing, so here's the thing, I was learning about the internet, how to make money on the internet, just basic stuff. Because like crypto, I'm on Wall Street. I've been in finance for basically since I got out of the military. And I wanted to be like a PhD economist. So there's a lot that I know that people cannot fathom, right? And this is why I bring such a unique perspective to crypto, right? I mean, I personally never heard anybody talking about the network effect until I mentioned it. Then a week after I mentioned it, you're seeing people like Raw Paul and all these other characters mentioning it, right? So it's about having that unique perspective and understanding what exactly you're analyzing. That I think is what sets me apart from everybody else. And the thing about it is, right, when we talk about Hex, we sit there and look at it. It trades one way. It provides consistent high yield, right? And the game theory, as Cabana was alluding to, is just so the funny thing is, it's not complex. It's hard for people to understand because people aren't used to thinking longer than 5 minutes, right? And I think that's the bigger issue here. It like Hex really it goes about the process of when you're trying to understand it, right? Remolding your brain and how you view things, which I think is like the bigger issue at hand with a lot of people, and what I think will make Hex superior in the long term, because everybody saw what happened with Bitcoin. So now everybody is looking to replicate that same tactic, even though they don't know it. But that's essentially what they're trying to do.
I think that's such a great point that you just brought up, is the complexity. Obviously with the Hexican community, we understand it, but it's the those in the crypto community that I believe many are smart, but it's also surprising how many OGs out there look at Hex and say it's too complicated or they don't understand it. And I'm like, come on, man, just take a few minutes and you'll get it, you know?
It's funny you mentioned that. And just to interject on that point, I tried to introduce a couple of my Wall Street friends to it. Some are receptive, some are not. I mean, the best are the ones that do a 10-minute Google search and think they know. Those are the best, right? Because what they're finding is a bunch of spam and they don't even know it. And I sent a tweet out last weekend, actually, because, and here's the thing, as I did my research on Hex, it never came to my mind that this was a scam, right? Because again, I'm keeping an open mind. I'm doing my own research. I'm not relying on internet spam, right? Which is, I think, the bigger issue is that people just don't have the ability to actually discern reality from fact. They just accept a link and whatever text is posted on the webpage, whether it be Google or whatever, right? Any reference, any medium, right? They just take that as fact, not understanding that it's a medium, right? They're not directly going to the source. And that's a bigger issue, right? And here's another thing. Like Cabana said, I've onboarded 10 times more no coiners than I have crypto people. And then there's a reason for that. A very good reason for that, which we can get into later on, but it's a lot of head games here.
Yeah.
One thing you were saying is, Patrick, you go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I want to add something when you say it, like the network effect and like the increased complexity. So from the complexity, actually it will get less complicated and less complicated in the future, like we saw it with the evolution in Bitcoin as well. Like, because think about it, like buying Bitcoin 2010 or 2011, it was really, really complicated.
Oh, don't remind me.
Yeah. And for the network effect, what I see in Hex is that we will have a really great network effect in the future because of the staking issue. Because, why should Hex OGs become that quiet like Bitcoin OGs, I don't think it will be the case in the future,
Well, I'm going to make sure it's not the case.
They have their position in the network, they try to manage their T-shares and have a happy life, So I don't see those OGs like going away or do something bad in the network or something like that, because they even like in 30 years they still want to earn this passive income stream, what the Hex contract offers you. So I guess we will have a great network effect in the future, but for right now, for this year at least, we will still fight against against stupid crypto. Let's sum it up like that.
Well, we have this great thing called staking, right? Where staking is like saving yourself from doing something stupid. For example, imagine you would have 1 million Bitcoin, but you sold it 2011. Would you today talk about it and talk about your failure that you lost so much money? No, you wouldn't. But if you're staked like 15 years, you don't sell it, and you just sell it when it's evolved in 15 years and you are basically rich, and then you're going to talk a lot about it. You're not talking about your failure, but you're talking about how much money you made, and this just going to explode, I guess.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because that's kind of how finance works in general, and I'm pretty sure Cabana could back me up on this. And in legacy finance, right, anybody that participates in markets, they only talk about their wins. It's very rare the person that talks about their losses. Regardless of the fact that losses are extremely common, right? Taking a loss in the financial market is like waking up and breathing. You're going to be doing it, right? But nobody talks about that.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what everybody goes through every day, right? Especially if they have a short-term point of view, you have to. It's not, it's not like really optional. It's kind of like going to happen whether you want it to or not, because the thing about it is when you're looking at a big picture, it's a big picture. And then when you're zooming in on the details, you're missing all of the details in the big picture. So you're taking an action on a microscopic point of view, missing everything that's happening above you, right? And this is what day traders run into. And I can speak about this for hours on end because I've done it for 10 years, right? So it's not like anybody can sit here and make something up. These are the facts. right? Every day trader takes losses. Every trader takes losses, regardless of time frame. The only time, right, you don't take a loss is if you're able to hold on long enough, right? Like if you bought Microsoft at the top in 1999, 2000, yeah, you're up now, but it took you 20 years to get there, right? So it's about having the ability to hold on to dear life if you can, right? Because there are many people that we saw that had Bitcoin, thousands of Bitcoin, right? Hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin 10 years ago, not even 5, 10 years ago, right? And if you look at that rich list now, nobody has more than 10,000 coins, if that, outside of institutions, right? Which are new entrants into the game later on, right? Like institutions didn't come in really until they started shit talking it in 2015, 2016, because that's what institutions do. Wall Street will talk a market down so that they can then buy it up. And now as you're looking, now they're trying to get everybody to get in, which is why at the beginning of the week, I'm kind of like issuing a sentiment check anytime I go on a YouTube stream, because people have to be aware this is not the time to be buying and holding, right? This literally is not, because what you're seeing is you're seeing media telling you to jump in. You're seeing people on financial media telling you to jump in. Now, the last time I remember this happening was 2017, all the way into early 2018. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty sure.
I agree on that, but the difference was that in 2017, those institutions, those billionaires weren't in it. And then the CME futures launched, and they said, okay, like all the smart money investors saw that this is a bubble. Then they had the option to short it, without buying it with the CME futures. So they did.
Right.
And after December 2017, there was not much buying power left,
Right. No, that's a fair point. It's a fair point, but that's why I issue it as a sentiment check.
And all the OGs saw an increase of 2,000% throughout the year of 2017, or like 1,800%, something like that, around 20x. So it was obvious to them as well, that because they were like, since August they wanted to, should I sell now?
I mean, but that's the thing, right? Now it looks different. And I'm pretty sure Cabana will back me up when I say this. Every time you hear the phrase "it's different this time," it's not. And courtesy of legacy finance for crypto finance. And that's a pro tip for you. So now while it looks different, because you're seeing all of this activity that probably happened months ago, okay? There's a reason you have a Michael Saylor screaming off the top of the hill now. He's been screaming for almost a year. Right? I mean, we have to be aware of that. We have to, okay, not a year, maybe 6 months. I think the guy, or maybe 8 months. I think he started coming public in maybe June, something like that. I don't remember. But the point is, you have these institutional players involved in the game now, right? Very important fact that you've noted, right? Now, you have to understand how institutions work, right? Because you have to remember, they're there to take your money, not give you any. Very important fact. Very, very important fact. That's why if you look at any legacy market, right, it's boom bust, the cycle. It's not just boom. So if you're going to have institutions entering the space now, and let's be honest, they have more power to manipulate price than they've ever had.
Yeah, but if they are coming just now, they still need to have to buy, So
here's the thing you have to understand. What you're hearing in the media,
if the situation is like 2017, they would need to be in the market already, because otherwise they won't have coins to dump.
Sure, no, I get what you're saying. But what I'm trying to explain is what you hear in the media is what's already happened. They're letting you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
First it happens in the chart, and then
they're setting people up for the fall. That's how it works.
Yeah, and
right?
I think
I was
gonna say, just to add to that, I spoke about this the other day. It's like, and I'm sure Whales, I mean, it's common sense, but it needs to be repeated every now and then.
Yeah.
You're not going to talk about your bags until they're filled.
Correct.
And that's why we're hearing, those whose bags have been filled, we're hearing from. But say, and this is just an example, but say if Apple were accumulating Bitcoin, we would not hear about it right now
until they are done.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, just take that situation, and with any other big entity that could be accumulating, we're not going to hear about it now.
Still, especially Bitcoin is moving up because of announcements, like Sunday this week, Elon Musk announced he already bought Bitcoin. I am done buying Bitcoin.
Exactly.
What did we see? 20%, the high of the daily candle,
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because that's a very good point. Now, what was he talking about 2 weeks prior to that? Every single day for 2 weeks prior to that, what was he talking about? He wasn't talking about Bitcoin, was he?
The Doge?
Dogecoin and so on.
That's right. He was talking about Dogecoin. That's my point. They'll make you look left while you should be looking right every single time, brother. There's a reason I'm not public. I'm here teaching people things they need to know. I'm not here making presumptions. I'm giving you facts. Right? So what you have to notice, go ahead, Abby.
I love where this discussion is going. We have this small talk. I want to mention one thing, and this will lead to our next question. We had talked about why is HEX so complicated to some of the people, because they think a certain way, like the legacy market, for example. We have compound interest, and normally compound interest works where your bag gets bigger and then you get interest on it and then you get more interest. In HEX, it's totally the other way, right? It's not like your HEX get bigger and then the compound effect will be on it, because it's more that everybody else gets less interest, and this is your compounding effect in HEX. So it's totally the other way.
Right.
Now, or less, what is your guys' favorite feature in HEX? For me, it's staking, obviously. But what is your favorite feature in HEX? Cabana.
Oh, me? I was going to say staking, so I guess I'll stick with that, just because, I mean, you can go out.
It is the best.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not like a Tezos or something like that, to where you go on and you stake it and you can immediately unstake. With HEX, you define your time and you either honor that or you don't. And if you do not honor that, then you get penalized for it. But if you honor your hopefully longer stake, you get rewarded so handsomely. And that part of staking is greater than anything in crypto, in my opinion. And there's two kind of classes of staking. It's like, the Tezos thing, where it's like, oh, I've staked my coins and they're working for me, but you can also pull them out whenever. So it's not really staking. You're just kind of like, they're almost liquid in a way. You just be like, okay, I'll pull them out and I can sell now. Where HEX is, if you pull them out and you're not honoring your commitment, you're going to pay for that, and the rest of the system gets rewarded for that as well. So, and that's just one of the many factors I think that you brought up that could be confusing to people, is the penalty factor. And I've seen that explained as a negative from others in the crypto space that aren't familiar with HEX. It's like, oh, well, if you pull out or sell, you get penalized. Well, that's only one fraction of the story. It's why. It's honoring your commitment. It's just like, another time deposit. You honor that and you get rewards. If not, you don't, and the rest goes to the community, which is, again, one of many features in HEX.
Well, I can see why somebody would hate the fees when you have the penalties. If you have to pay the penalties, I would hate to pay penalties. But what is the opposite? What is the good part about the penalties, Cabana?
Oh, I'm just saying for the staking class. I mean, the staking class, well, I guess there's a couple parts. The staking class benefits, obviously, but the penalties also incentivize you to keep your stakes and honor your commitment. If there were no penalties, then the value of staking would not be nearly as great. It's like, okay, well, I go back to the Tezos example, where you can just pull it out whenever you want. It's like, okay, well, if that happens, then you just kind of have a liquid coin that goes after or takes after pretty much so many other cryptos out there. But if you have to lock it up, then what's interesting is the average stake length in HEX. It's slowly crept up, I believe, from 4 years, 4.4 4, 4.6. I think we might be at 5 now.
Almost.
And the longer those coins are locked up, the more powerful the Hex ecosystem becomes. And that those are metrics that you can see, and as more and more people understand that and be like, oh wow, you know, all of this Hex is locked up for this amount of time, and if somebody actually wants to end stake that, then the community gets paid. Those are powerful factors, and I think it's slowly getting out there to people unfamiliar with the product, but it just takes a little time. But if the average stake length is any indication, Hex is going to be around for a long time.
And I think it gives insurance to everybody in the system, because everybody knows, okay, there's so much money locked for 5 years at least. It won't get down any time soon.
Absolutely.
Wales
Only, what about you? What's your favorite feature in Hex?
So as you guys were talking, right, I was like thinking to myself, because there's so many features, right? How do you pick one? So I have to go to the game theory, because the game theory kind of encompasses everything, right? It's a pure social contract. Like, people like to talk about the social contract, right? Which is complete bullshit. And the reason it's complete bullshit is because you have people that when they look at a social contract, they'll say, yeah, I'll agree to it. Then when it comes time to pay the piper, i.e. take your stake out, right, and end it early, and then have to pay a fee, they don't like that. The question is why, right? Why is that the case? And I could tell you why. The reason why is because people like to make fake commitments, right? That's all Tezos allows, for example. And I don't know anything about Tezos, but that's essentially what that is. It's a fake commitment. You're creating fake price support. You're creating fake time locks. You're creating a coin that's like Dogecoin, basically, because it serves no purpose. What's the purpose if you can stake a coin and pull it out? There's no insurance, right? Like you guys noted, there's no insurance there to support the ecosystem. The game theory is there to ensure people behave according to how the system is meant to work in order for it to flourish, right? And that's what the time locks are for. And that's what, when you see the average duration, which is currently at 4.95 years, I think. Yeah, 4.95 years. Now, if you take that into consideration, right, what that's saying is that there's a whole pot of coins that are not going to be available for sale for 5 whole years. That's what that's saying, right? So what does that mean? What that means is you just removed X supply for 5 years, making the coin even scarcer and more valuable, right? And no other staking system invokes that. Like, this is something that's a fact, a mathematical fact, right? While the other staking protocols just try to mimic and emulate that. And then I guess another thing that I have to just throw on top of it as a cherry on the ice cream is just the fact that you don't have to run through hoops to actually stake your coin, right? You really don't have to run. Like, if you try to do yield farming or any of these other protocols, I mean, again, I'm a math guy, and it took me like a while to like, what is this? What's going on here? This isn't straightforward. You have to jump through hoops just to earn some income on some coins you don't even really want. So, you know, there's so many facets. I could keep going. You guys know I can keep going, so let's just move on.
Oh, I know. We had a 3 or 4 hour happy hours.
All right. My mistake.
No,
happy hours.
Yeah, happy hours.
And I think Wales, didn't you have like an 8-hour stream at some point?
Yeah, I think I fell asleep at the end of that one. It was a marathon, man. It was just a marathon, man.
Well, we Hexicans love our 8-hour streams, don't we?
Oh yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch the streams on YouTube, you can put them on 1.5 speed or 2.0 speed. So you are through it in 4, like with a break, 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
As long as you don't get a fast talker like dollar cost crypto. I tried that one time, and it was like I had to take it down to like 1 1.25.
Too funny.
Yeah.
So those were pretty much the questions we all asked everybody in our streams. What I would like to talk next about is, Cabana, you have your YouTube channel as well. You have your shows. Let's talk a little bit about onboarding and about your show. What did you do in your show and to onboard people, and how's it going?
Yeah, I pretty much just wanted to create something different with the show. So, I mean, we do a bunch of different things. It's kind of more of a laid back atmosphere. So, the central focus is definitely Hex. So, any Hex news during the week, I just like to have it during the end of the week because the traditional trading week wraps up, and crypto events is on usually. Big Kirk is on usually, and just like to bring in guests from the community. Like I said, Wales was on a couple weeks ago, and just talk about mostly crypto, Hex, current events. Just kind of keep it casual because I think, as you mentioned earlier, there's so many Hex streams that are informative. So if I didn't want to be talking about a lot of the same things that others have already talked about. So try to pick out the most newsworthy events of the week. So if Richard does a new video or tweets about something or particular subject matter, we dive into that and kind of try to keep it a little bit short. Except when Silver the Antidote or Whales comes on, it tends to go long. But it's more of a fun casual time. We throw in some trivia games in there every now and then, and have a lot of fun with that. So in terms of onboarding, I'll just talk about that really quick from a personal standpoint. I've had some success recently. Staker app has obviously made it a little easier because I can just be like, hey, here's my domain name that I created, and it points them to the app, and they just click on it, and I can see who has clicked or the amount of referrals that have clicked on that link in the app. And it's so much easier than, say, 2 months ago when I onboarded a friend of mine, and he was used to traditional exchanges. So he's like, okay, well, where can I buy Hex? It's not on Coinbase. How do I get it? And then I was like, okay, well, MetaMask, and you gotta send your Ethereum. And he's like, oh wow. And this is thankfully before the fees have skyrocketed. So he wasn't happy, I guess, with fees below like $10 or something, and now sometimes they're in the hundreds depending what you're doing. But it was a good onboard. He understood the simplicity of the blockchain CD, certificate of deposit. He works in legacy markets as well. So I think that onboard is quite easier, and those are the ones that I prefer to onboard rather than the ones that I think could come back in 3 months and say, is it time to sell yet? Because those aren't the kind of holders that we as a community necessarily want in the product. We want people that are long-term minded, long-term focused, and I try to gauge people before I onboard and get a feel for, okay, can you really stick it out for years at a time? And if I get a good feeling about that, I'll pursue it much more greatly than someone who's just like, okay, in a week from now, or one of their first questions before they get onboarded is like, how high do you think it can go before I sell? And it's just like, okay, man,
yeah. You already have my link now. Can you please give it back?
Right.
But I want to jump into this a second, because maybe for Wales only, as you're in the crypto market since the beginning, because what I learned is that you're only safe when it comes to long-term holding in crypto when you buy your own hardware wallet, meaning when you create your seed phrase, your memoric phrase offline, and you keep it offline. And I don't know, have you guys done a lot of research as well in regards to the Gnosis Safe wallet there? Or because I'm still not sure if I can recommend 5555 stakes out of my heart done with the stake app on maybe a shitty phone.
That has crossed my mind, and I am a little wary about that. So you bring up a great point with the hardware wallet, and I think shoot, was it Hex XYZ or something like that? That has
it's apphex.win/ledger. The link, the old link was the hard one, but he changed it to apphex.win. And if you you can apphex.win, and then you have the possibility to change to your ledger, or you go with /ledger, and then you're directly there.
Yeah, something like that I feel way more comfortable with than
I mean, you can only also just buy a hardware wallet, install the seed offline on it, and then make a MetaMask wallet which is empty. And this MetaMask wallet you connect with your hardware wallet device, and then it's like the same. Even if you already have a MetaMask, you can still buy a hardware wallet, restore the 12-word seed in the new hardware wallet, and then delete the MetaMask wallet and create a new empty MetaMask wallet.
So would that work for stakes though, that you're already locked into?
I mean, the 12 words where the stakes are already on, you put in the hardware wallet, and then you can delete your MetaMask, so you don't have the key online in the background anymore.
Okay.
It's like a transfer of custody, basically.
Yeah.
And the seed phrase are the keys to be able to unlock that motion from A to B.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would feel better with something like that than, as Patrick pointed out, if you're only good as the quality of your technology, and if you're there are more sources for error, I would say. If you're on,
I don't know if there are. I'm still thinking about it, because what I found
that's
out.
The question, right, is if we're thinking about it, I'm uncomfortable with it right now until we think about it some more and get some more answers, because there is like a certain degree of unease there, and once I'm put at ease, I'll totally be fine with it. Because
what I found out is that once you wrote down your mnemonic phrase from the stake app, you won't have access to it anymore. So it's not like in MetaMask where it's living behind the app or something like that, or behind the add-on, the extension. And what you also do with stake app, you share your identity. And this is not bad in this case, actually, especially for no coiners. What I wrote in their chat, you can also choose, if you have an iOS device, to go in with your Apple ID. So like really full data,
Mm-hmm.
And because if you have a problem in the future with your seed phrase or something else, with this Gnosis Safe wallet, you have something so-called validators, where you can choose like 3 people, and if those are coming together, you can move the ownership of your wallet. So for example, you have 0x887, and then you can move to 0x888. If you come together, everybody agrees, and then you can transfer the ownership of this address. That's why I'm like still 50-50. So okay, this has advantages, but I don't know like the people from Gnosis Safe wallet, I don't know like how this is really created. I'm not 100% sure that only the user knows this mnemonic seed phrase afterwards. And the last thing is, from a user's perspective, like can the user still mess it up?
Well, on this point, we have Tech Dolphin here. He says the Gnosis wallet supports social recovery, and you can change the ownership of that wallet with a 2 out of 3 multi-sig, for example. And this is exactly what you said.
Exactly.
I think this is awesome.
Explained. But I still don't know, like, do you need to have like a good internet connection? Can it be a public internet connection when you do it, for example?
So let me just interject here, because the question you're asking is a valid one. But I think the thing we have to remember is, if you're using old tech, you probably shouldn't be dabbling in crypto, period. Straight up. Because when I was dabbling in it 10 years ago, right, old tech wasn't any good then. This is 2021. we're talking about Web3 for the most part, in most cases, for a lot of this technology. And a lot of the web that we use today is still Web 2, which is from 10 years ago, right? So the short answer is no, right? And the reason the short answer is no is because you have to remember that there's new architectures being built on top of the new tech that doesn't exist on the old tech. So you can easily, right, missend or misdo or mistype anything, right? Because people always want to do things on their phone. They don't want to do things on a laptop or a tablet or a desktop, which is where they should be doing things, right? So the multi-sig wallet is a smart wallet, right? Like a smart contract wallet. So it changes the dynamic of what's actually happening in the background significantly. And the reason for that is because of the technological outlay that's required, right, to make this wallet actually function in the way that we would like it to, right? Because we have to remember, these are hex, these are hex characters, 26 character hexadecimal, alphanumeric values, right? So you can't, you have to realize this isn't a domain name system just yet. So until we're able to advance the technology where these hexadecimal alphanumeric values can be stored in a way that's a little more advanced, which is something similar to like the DNS system which we have today, which does kind of exist in the Ethereum network, but it's ENS, right? But it's very small, and these are the .eth domain names that you see floating around on Twitter. I have a couple. They're relatively cheap, and you can tie them, right, to any wallet address, right? So then the question then becomes is, what happens, right, when we have a wallet address and we use it on so many different transactions and we want to gift one thing that's tied to that wallet address to somebody else? And I think that is what the smart contract wallet is going to ultimately be able to answer, right? But we have to be cognizant of the fact that this is still early on. This is very new technology. If you don't have the latest technology, then you probably should not be doing anything on a mobile phone, period. Because at least when you're on a desktop or a laptop, the browser that you're using or whatever software that you're using can actually lean back, right, relative to whatever your OS is doing and saying, and kind of piggyback off the actual new technology, right? So that's I would not recommend doing any of this stuff on a phone if your phone is not like the latest phone. And by latest, I mean the last 3 to 5 years. Because what you're doing is you're exposing yourself to financial risk that doesn't even seem like it, but it's technological risk. So that's the long answer, and the short answer is no. Sorry.
Well, thank you for that insight here. I thought it would be like this, like grandma, if she uses an old phone and wants to use Staker, she probably doesn't buy a new iPhone, but still, is she safe? And this was the question, and thanks for clearing that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very important because it's like, I understand, right? And here's the thing, like I never thought we would get to a point in crypto where this would be the kind of question, because the reason the question pops up is because people are actually able, right, to share the wealth. And that's the reason this is now an important item. So it's actually a great question that we should all be proud that we can even ask this question, right? Because we're at a point in time where people didn't even think crypto was going to make it this far. But here we are, $47,000 later, right? So, it's a lot of little things that are very big and easy to ignore, because people just, they want to use the stuff. They just want to get rich quick, but that's not how it works. So very important to keep that in mind.
One more question for Cabana before we start talking about all the nice graphs you made. Cabana, as a content creator, what would you like to see in the Hex universe from other creators, or maybe from normal Hex people, to do in the future?
Oh,
like
wow.
other shows, because your show is pretty unique. You have those jokes at the end. You always give those news stuff. It is really, really different from all the other shows. What advice, or what would you like to see from other creators or normal Hexicans out there?
I don't know about specific ideas, but I think you touched on just the general concept, and that's kind of why I started, is just to do something different that nobody else is doing, to break it up a little bit. Not that anybody is doing anything bad or anything like that. It's just, it's a great problem to have. We have so much content, and now we're international. So we have German streams, and I woke up the other day and it was an Australian stream going on, and United States, so we're slowly coming out all over the map here. Joe Hexotic, I think he does some really unique things there. So maybe perhaps with interviews with Hexicans, because the community is growing. I really like what he's doing, funding Jim. They have different, I think, angles on their interviews. So Joe Hexotic is more of like a life story journey kind of thing, to where funding Jim focuses more on a person's, I guess, business background and things like that. So those are unique ideas that I think are really well. They're not just about Hex crypto and price and liquidity. Which is great. Again, keep doing it, community, everybody.
Actually, the talk yesterday from Joe Exotic together with Fireburn was really, really good as well, where he talked about some private stuff as well, and in the end he gave a really nice overview about the Staker app and how everything is working out and where they want to go. And it was also like yesterday where I realized, okay, so this is like their version 101, and with this version they can extend, because I mean right now this ownership thing what we discussed a few minutes ago, it's not supported right now, but it would just need to be a few lines of code, and then it will be implemented for every Staker app user.
And then it's got to go to Coin Fabric, right?
Right.
No. If
Or is
the
that a
Staker
different-
app thing, I still talk about the Staker app thing.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
and it's not that you can transfer the ownership of a single stake. So you can only transfer the ownership of the whole wallet. I mean, of course, if there is only a single stake in it, okay. But I mean, right now with the fees, you can direct message Dev or Fireburn if you want to have your smart wallet set up like right now. But then you have to pay like $30 or something like that for it. So I don't think that there will be like people who are creating wallet after wallet to put like one max stake in it and then like create an identity for each and all these wallets and then maybe sell it in 3 years. I mean, it's I don't think so. Yeah. And
It's
the
like
other thing what you were talking about is the other contract which will be audited in about 1 month by Coin Fabric.
Yeah.
And I don't need to talk about this right now because at first I wanted to wait for the audit. And if the audit says, okay, the code as it is bug free, perfect, then we can start to talk about it. But if they say, guys, here you have a bug, here you have a bug, and here you have a bug, it might take them like 6 months more to remove all that and to get it right, because also the Hex smart contract was not like done from the get-go.
there's always delays in
2019, like in the first quarter, Richard announced, I will start in 2 weeks or something like that, and then it took until December until it really started, which is again a feature, not a problem, but that's why I don't see any need to talk about possible things we don't have right now.
That's a smart idea. And I just wanted to, I guess, circle back on the question, because I kind of talked a lot about it there, but I think the general answer is just unique ideas and anything that someone can bring to the table that we have a lot of niches now. So Discourse Syndicate has, they have a lot of shows, but they have a Friday hangout where it's more of a free-for-all kind of thing. They're starting to get more people from the crypto community on their Monday and Wednesday shows. So it's I like the format there. So if you want kind of like a one-on-one or a discussion with a small group, those shows are good for that. Again, Joe Hexotic does his variety of interview shows. Same thing with Funding Jim. So just something that's a little different that isn't already out there, maybe a format, something to break it up. That's why I try to do, talk about sports or current events and, some trivia, because it's something that a lot of people relate to, they can participate in. And if we can touch on those aspects of normal life while we're, of course, talking about HEX and cryptocurrency, it kind of just, I don't know, brings everything together and just makes it, keeps it unique at the same time.
Well, to wrap up the question, I want to say that everybody who is a content creator in HEX already does amazing, and everybody can bring something to the table. And we are so unique. Every show is different, and this is great for the viewer, because the viewer can now choose out of a variety of different shows and just pick his favorite show. And what I would like to see in the future of the normal Hexicans out there that don't have a show, you don't have to have a show. That's not possible that everybody has a show. But what you can do as a consumer of the show, you can engage, write a comment, give likes, and just be engaged in your favorite show. For example, this already helps the community, and this furthermore helps HEX in the future, I think.
Yeah, like and retweet. I mean, just at the start of your show, I'm just looking at my timeline. You put it out there, and then my timeline goes nuts because the Hexican community sees it, and then they start retweeting you and liking you, and we can see it if we're mentioned, and that's exactly what you're talking about. So more of that is always good.
What I also really like the community. So Ellen, sorry, I interrupted.
What I like to do is just take like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, my time a day, and just go to my Twitter and like every single HEX content I see. Sometimes actually I don't even read it because it's a long text. I still like it because I know it's, for example, from Belly Brand. I don't need to read that. I know that I will like it anyway. So just if people could do that,
Very true.
Yeah, another thing to do also, I think if you're on desktop, I don't know if you can do it on mobile, but if you don't have the time to sit down and make HEX clips like HEX Clips does, which isn't. I think they're awesome because they're usually short and right to the point. But as a content creator, anybody who does a show, if there's one or two great moments in your show that it's like, oh well, that was a nice little piece of information, or that was a really cool moment that we shared, you can timestamp it in YouTube, and then when you tweet it out, when the user clicks the link, they won't go to the beginning of the video. You can talk about exactly what point of the video that is, send them to that timestamp, and that way they don't get to the channel and they're searching around for maybe an hour or two of content. You send them exactly right where you want them to go, and it's be like, oh, okay, that was really interesting. And perhaps since they went right there and found that interesting, they'll stick around.
Watch the whole thing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Nice. Okay, Wales, only you have so amazing graphs, and I saw them all of you, but I certainly didn't understand them. Could you maybe bring up some of your graphs and maybe explain what was your intention of the graph, and what? This is the most important part. What does some graph or the other explains to the viewer, to the people who see that? Is there any information that somebody could use for a stake, for example, to make a smart decision?
So just to piggyback off what you guys were talking about, these charts and graphs are exactly the reason I started a channel, and well, not so much the reason, but let me rephrase. The community is the reason, right? Like I sat there and, like you guys were saying, I watched all of these different streams. I literally do these charts in my sleep. Like, this is what I've been doing for, I don't know how long at this point, at least 10 years. Like, I just do this for fun. Because I like to see what the data is saying. I don't care about a table. A table doesn't tell you anything. A chart displays, right? Like a picture says 1,000 words, right? Numbers say everything. So if you put numbers in a picture, it's going to tell you the whole story. So, I've spent pretty much my whole career on Wall Street, kind of doing data analysis, trying to understand what the markets are saying, trying to decipher exactly what's what. Because the fact of the matter is that a lot of the financial decisions we make aren't made the right way. And I've had to learn this the hard way. That's why I'm still working. That's why I'm still doing the things that I'm doing to survive, right? And we're all in the same boat Otherwise, we wouldn't be on Twitter talking because we had better things to do. So, you know, I guess what I want the users to get from the chart is just think about what the mission is, right? The mission is wealth generation. The charts are created are there to show and highlight the performance of HEX versus the initial performance of every other top coin, right? And the only two top coins that exist in reality are Bitcoin and Ethereum. So I compare HEX directly to Bitcoin and Ethereum in many aspects. And really what I really try to do is to highlight all of the important aspects of not just HEX versus the two top dogs, but highlight the important aspects of HEX and how it works, right? Because HEX and how it works is really what brings people to making the right financial decision once they actually understand how it works, which is the hard part, right? Because here it is. I've been involved in HEX since like literally October 26th. It's been November, December, January. We're about to hit the 4-month mark for myself, and I'm still learning so much stuff about HEX, even though I have so much HEX, right? And that's the thing that people just don't grasp. There are so many different facets to HEX that I could literally make probably like 100 YouTube videos, literally, not even a joke, and just compare and contrast how HEX relates to anything financial, because it really solves a lot of problems. Like Richard Hart is not lying. He's not lying. He's saying a straight fact. It solves a lot of financial problems that people run into because they're not being astute with the decision making, right? They want the quick dollars, the quick cash, and we all know what quick leads to. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to show with all of my charts. That's really it. Just trying to help people understand what HEX is doing versus Ethereum and Bitcoin, which, you know, were the two first coins really to hit the market in a big way, outside of the stable coins of yesteryear, which were XLM and XRP. So, you know, it's just highlighting the important thing, right? Like you have all these new entrants nowadays, which are in the top 10, which don't belong there, right? And if you look at use case, utility, you know, you look at the data, they don't belong there, but that's not how it works, right? So that's why I'm bringing a whole different bent to, like, what I do in crypto doesn't exist, period. And I've been saying this because I've been watching crypto videos. I can say this because I've been watching crypto videos since I started learning about HEX, just to compare and contrast. Because how do you know HEX is better? You don't know HEX is better if you don't compare and contrast. So yeah, that's basically what I've been doing. Yeah, I've been doing that. I've been looking at what the other folks are saying about their preferred crypto, and they don't even look at other cryptos. They just look at that one crypto, and that's it, right? They're not doing anything else. They're really not. So it's easy to pump your bags all day and not look at the competition. But that's not what I'm doing, right? What I'm doing is I'm showing you guys, here's Ethereum, here's Bitcoin, here's HEX, here's a value proposition for HEX, and here's all of the different stuff that it does, right?
So should I bring on the screen share?
Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Because I can just start walking you guys through it. Yeah. So this chart that we're looking at right now is through the 13th of February, which is in conjunction with the first 425 days of HEX being on an exchange. So what does that mean? What that means is I'm not taking the data. There's no price data for the first 16 days of actual activity in HEX, which was, I guess you could call it the pre-sale activity.
May I explain this shortly? So the first in the first 16 days, we were only on one centralized exchange called ByDesk, and they made a version 2 of their exchange in the third week of HEX, or like after 16 days. And they deleted all the data from the from their charts from the version 1. Wow. And like with this version 1, version 2 transformation, they also increased the fees to become a shitty centralized exchange and so on. But yeah, never mind. And I guess like on the 16th day, this was like the first day of Uniswap as well, or something like that. Because like before, some were before Christmas, Uniswap started. And yeah, I mean, I can still remember seeing 2.2 million for one ETH, 2.2 million HEX for one ETH on Uniswap, like in the first 2 days when it was possible.
That's crazy, man. Yeah. If only I could go back in time. If only I could go back in time. So yeah, so that's a perfect explanation. And this chart, right, is literally highlighting the first 425 days of Hex, the first 425 days of Ethereum, which is the orange line, and the first 425 days of Bitcoin up to this point, which is the line at 100, which is in essence 0 for this chart. Because this chart, what it is that it's an indexing of return streams, right? So what that means is we're starting at the initial point in time for each respective data stream, and the yellow line with the blue hue is Bitcoin, the orange line is Ethereum, the pink line, the dark pink line is the hex price, which once you get towards the end of the chart has the white hue around it, and the magenta line is a t-shirt index, which when you get towards the end of the chart, it has the yellow hue around it. Right. So what I'm showing is I'm showing the first 425 comparable data points between Ethereum, Hex, and Bitcoin. Right. So what this chart is showing is that Bitcoin was basically dead for the first 425 days up until this point. And in reality, the network itself was really dead for the first 562 days until the pizza transaction. And the pizza transaction is a transaction that happened in July, I think 2011. Maybe May, I don't remember exactly, either May or July 2011, or was it 2020? I can't remember exactly, either or. But anyway.
But actually, why is this Bitcoin index like just a flat line?
Because there was no network activity. There was no price activity. There wasn't a network for Bitcoin after it came online January 3rd, 2009. An actual
now I understand. So we are not comparing the same time frame. So right.
We're comparing the first 425 days of price action between Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Hex. That's what we're doing in this chart. So what I'm showing is that Bitcoin is flat line. It's still dead. Like until day 562, there is no price activity for Hex for Bitcoin. In terms of the network,
day where like the famous Bitcoin pizzas were bought, and
correct.
This was like I guess this was the day like where Bitcoin first got the price
on the network. Yes. Yeah. So basically, think about it like this: you have a digital network, right? That's existed for 2 whole years. In that time, nobody decided to use it until. Until May 2010. That's when we hit 562. I think it was May 22nd, 2010. That's when we hit day 562. That's when the first actual transaction happened in Bitcoin. And everything prior to that was really just devs or people that devs knew. It wasn't actual network activity. Versus Hex, on day one, you had 15-year stakes. You had everything happening on day one, period. People understood, right? So what you're seeing in this chart is essentially Ethereum is taking forever to do anything. And we know why. If you've been around since the inception of Ethereum, you know Ethereum started out as a scam too, just like it's still a scam today, just like Hex is a scam today, right? Because it's brand new. And just like Bitcoin was a scam in 2009, 2010, and hell, it's still a scam for a lot of people today, in case, some people are not aware. So what I'm highlighting here is just the outperformance of Hex versus what we think of as the top of crypto. So I'm making a very, very clear picture here that the reality is that everything is being disguised and masked like we always see, right? Via mainstream mediums. And this is kind of why I created these charts, because I literally started like live streaming like the week Hex bottomed. And the reason for that was because I'm seeing all this distress in the comments on Twitter. Nobody knew who the hell I was. So I felt that I had a responsibility to at least help the community understand how cryptos actually work. Because nobody really understands how cryptos or markets actually work. Forget legacy finance. We're just talking crypto. Legacy is a whole nother ballgame. You got millions of people involved with that don't have a clue. Right? They really don't, and yet they've been in it for 20, 30 years. But there's a very good reason for that, right? Crypto's a completely different beast. You can't just walk into crypto and make money. So that's why you have to have people like me coming out and explaining, hey, what you're doing is X, Y, Z. What you should be doing is A, B, C, right? Because it's easy to think that there's always going to be an altcoin season. We're still waiting for it, right? I mean, if you look at what happened in 2017, That's not happening this year yet. It hasn't happened, right? It's only happening in a select few, not the widespread market. You can't just buy anything nowadays, right? And that's the difference between 2017 and today also. Now that's different. That's very different because in 2017, you could buy anything and it was going up. I don't know if you guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was like, a bit confused, like in the beginning, because your words sounded like you were saying that the current bull market is like nearly on its end right now.
Right. No, I'm not saying that. So let me be specific. So what we have to understand is what the viewers that you might or might not be having are people that might or might not know something about crypto. So what you don't want is you don't want people jumping into Bitcoin at 47,000 like they did at 20,000, right, in December 2017. That's what you don't want, right? So what I'm saying is be careful because you don't know what you're walking into when you're buying Bitcoin at 47,000, right? Because a lot of people did the same thing 3 years ago at 20,000 or 19,500 or whatever the price was. Because what happens is you're seeing all of this activity being put in front of you. And by the time it's put in front of you, it's already over. The game is done, right?
Yeah, but the game was only I remember the time quite good, like back in 2017, because in the night, so it was night here in Europe, when we saw the top. The top was like 22,000 over in South Korea or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, remember back then, the exchanges were all different
Bitcoin
too.
was on a nearly daily base on nearly every newspaper.
No, it was.
We aren't on that point yet.
I'm not saying we're close to that point yet. I'm saying we're entering that point. So be careful. Because what we're seeing PayPal.
Yeah. So I think that from here we will see the real bull run, and when we drop back, so like from the top we might drop 70,
Right.
80, 85%. We will end up like in the zone we had seen now in January or right now.
No, I get what you're saying. Well, you're thinking we're about to enter the euphoric phase. When the market actually catapults higher because you have this rush of retail investors, right? That's
exactly. Actually, I see Bitcoin doing at least 110% more in this year that we.
No. So here's the thing. I'm not saying it's gonna end this year. I'm saying be careful right now. It's a very timely statement. The statement that I'm making. Right, like there's a difference between buying at 47 and buying at 40. That's basically what I'm saying, and that difference is $7,000. A lot of people can't handle that. Now, if you put that in percentage terms, that's almost 20%. Yeah, that's almost 20%. It doesn't look like a lot on a chart, but if you're putting $100 in, and all of a sudden it's down to 80, that's just gonna hurt the average person. Right?
I mean, if you don't explain the volatility of the crypto market to the average people, they shouldn't invest at all. Like
that's the thing. Yeah, but that's the thing.
Because even like if you look back in the chart, Ethereum or Bitcoin, it just takes 3, 4, 5 days to drop down 30% or more.
Right. It takes time, but there's a reason for that, right?
So and no matter if you buy like at 70, 47 or 40, there is still the risk that it drops 30% in the next 5 days.
Sure. I mean, that's the thing. There's always the risk is always two-sided, right? And that's what people don't understand. You can't come into a market and expect that it's always going to go up, even if it does over time. Because the reality is that when you're looking at the big picture, it's the big picture. It's not today. It's not this week. It's not this month. Right. And that's kind of what I want to highlight. It's okay to buy crypto. I'm not saying the bull market is over because it's not. It's clearly not. Because the fact of the matter is that legacy markets are 70 times bigger than the crypto market. And we all know legacy markets are done. You have negatives. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about Germany specifically because it's financially been trashed, right, since 2010. But
man, you have no idea like how much physical euros are just like on normal.
I was in Germany when the euro was worth less than the dollar. When it was 82 cents to the dollar. Now it's quote unquote worth more than a dollar, right? But that's not what's going on. What's happening is that now you're getting no yield on your currency, right? You have endless printing of euros across the board.
True.
Right? The ECB took it upon themselves, or not the ECB, but the European Union took it upon themselves to postulate, to put themselves on a pedestal and tell all of Europe how to live and survive. And nobody there cares. That's basically what's happening. So with that,
I mean, I won't say that nobody cares, but like the people who are in charge
I will say
care.
nobody cares. Well, here's the thing. Europe operates distinctly politically from the US. In Europe, the political class is the upper class. That's not the case in the US, right? So the distinction there is that if the common person doesn't care, the people that benefit definitely are not going to care. So it's on the average person to actually get up and say something. Because let me tell you, the CEO of Deutsche Bank isn't going to say shit, right? Or Commerce Bank or any other bank in Europe. They're not going to say anything. So again, you cannot sit there and wait on others to speak for you.
Yeah, but actually, it's not that Franklin Templeton or JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs are like fighting against the US government as well.
Oh, they're not. But that's my whole point, right? Why is it okay for someone to dictate to you how you can survive? Makes no sense. So my objective is by coming up with these, like again, like I was looking at everything that was happening in YouTube crypto, right? That's why I started the channel that I started. And here's the thing. I didn't intend to start a channel. I intended to show people how cryptos work because people don't understand how cryptos work. They don't. If they did, they would not trade them. Period. And a discussion. Right?
Really? Because actually,
very true.
No, but what is a trader looking for? A real trader is looking for volatility.
No. A trader is looking to compound returns. They're not looking for volatility. Volatility is a function of the ability of the market to allow you to compound returns. That's the way that works. It's not the other way around. Volatility is an output. You can't use an output as an input. Very important that that's addressed, right? Because this is why you have a lot of things in finance like the Sharpe ratio, which are complete BS because they're using an output as an input. That makes zero sense because what you're doing is you're using a determinant to tell you what the result is. You can't do that. That's like saying, Lion, you look like you're 5'6". Let's take an inch off of you. That should make you 215 pounds. That makes no sense, brother. You get what I'm saying? That makes no sense. Like mathematically, that is ineptitude. That makes zero sense. You can't take a Lego, right, or the foundation off of the bottom of the building and expect it to stand. It just doesn't work that way, right? And that's something that I think people have to understand. It's very important that we look at things the proper way and not how we want to look at them or how they're dished out to us. Because again, what is price volatility? People don't actually know what that means, right? I mean, it's easy to say Bitcoin is volatile, but volatile versus what? Because if you look at the big picture, once again, it's actually not volatile. It just goes up. So is it really volatile, right? It's very important to understand the message that's being relayed.
I mean, I would say yes, it's really volatile because yes, of course, if you just look at the big picture, you start in the left corner and go on the upper right. Yeah, but around like during this time frame, still Bitcoin dropped.
It goes up and down
four times over 80%. So yes, I would still say it's volatile, you know.
Sure.
And because if you are an investor, a holder of the specific currency, when it does that, it goes down 60, minus 70, minus 80.
I completely get it.
It doesn't feel like, it's just upwards volatility.
No, I get it, man. And that's the funny thing about volatility, right? People don't understand that it's a two-sided effect. If it goes in one direction, one way, it has to go in another direction, the other way. It's not optional. So let me explain. It's like, what is it? Kinetic or static energy. I can't remember which one it is. But it's the one where, think about it like this. You have a slinky. You guys know what a slinky is. It's that coiling toy, right? Where if you put it down the stairs, it just keeps going. Right?
Yeah.
So volatility is just like that, down and up. Literally, it stacks. So what happens is...
How do you do it that it goes up?
I'll explain.
The stinky one.
Oh, well, that's funny. It doesn't go up, but volatility works that way, right? That's the funny thing. That's why it's hard for people to visualize. Volatility works that way, and you're going to see it. I'm going to get to it. So when you think about selling volatility, right? Once the volatility starts to decrease, what that's saying is that the variation in price movement is going to start getting smaller moving forward, right? This is why when you look at markets that always go up, the variation is minimal because the change becomes less and less as the market picks one direction, right? And that's kind of what's happening, right? So now when the market, and that's not when the market is going up now, okay? So when the market is going down, there's a reason it goes down and volatility spikes up, because when you're looking at the variation, right, from a market that's always going up, which is versus a market that doesn't really always go down, the spikes are going to be significantly greater relative, and well, the spikes in downward volatility are going to be significantly greater versus the spikes in the upward volatility, right? And the reason for that is because markets typically, two-way markets, let me rephrase, two-way markets typically take the stairs up and the elevator down.
Yeah.
Right. And now here's the thing. Here's the thing though, because it's a very now this is why it gets confusing for people, because it becomes a very technical detail at this point. When you're looking at legacy markets, they're two-way markets with centralized order books. Okay. What that means is you can literally stand a mile away, take a sphere, and shoot it at an order book and hit something. That's what that means. Now, a DEX doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that at all. The complete opposite. You have to stand right in front of it with a straw with a spitball and spit that spitball right into the DEX. That's the only way you can get an order fill. It's a completely different aspect versus a centralized order book. Now, why is that important? That's important because that is what causes the upside volatility that's similar to the downside volatility, right? Like if we look at HEX today, HEX looks like it's down a lot. But if you look at the chart, it also goes up a lot, right? Like if you look at the rates of return, that's what I mean by the changes in volatility, because that's how you measure the volatility, is really in the variation in price from day to day. So Bitcoin goes up 30, 40, 50%. And if it goes down 30, 40, 50%, is that really volatile? It's not. You have to be able to normalize volatility in both instances, because as we all know, what goes up must come down and what goes down must go up. So again, we have to learn how to look at markets holistically. We can't just pick one side and have it be the only thing that, and have that side be just what benefits us. That's kind of the short-sightedness of humanism when it comes to markets. It's very, very important to be able to keep an open mind at all times for both sides of the coin, because again, we know where HEX is going to go, and there's a very specific reason for that, right? Every coin doesn't have that set of properties embedded in it. Not Bitcoin, not Ethereum. Ethereum is only now trying to get to that point. The only reason Bitcoin doesn't have to is because it's the first one. I mean, hell, Litecoin still exists, and it's just a copy of Bitcoin. Literally.
Yeah, I also don't know like what this coin still does in the top 10. I mean, especially after the founder dumped on everybody's head in the end of 2017.
Hold on, I saw a tweet.
He was back out yesterday.
Yeah, was that yesterday? Yeah. I was like, dude, just shut up and go away. Nobody cares.
Just stop.
Yeah, nobody cares, bro. You made your money, and that's it. Like, but here's the thing.
And back then he said like, he needed to sell that he don't have like any buyers because of his own net worth.
I don't remember that.
His tweets yesterday, it might have been yesterday. He was like, I've been, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, I get a lot of flack for people selling me I sold the top. And he's like, I didn't sell the top. I sold it 100, 200, 300. I'm like, still, man, come on. And you did get rid of everything.
He gave his average price and everything. I remember that. It was like 205 or something.
Yeah. But he dumped and it went down.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And hasn't gotten back in, and it's dead basically, instead of with the exception.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that it's that, because I guess the same thing will happen then in the end of 2017. People will do their new Coinbase account, see Bitcoin 56,000 or something like that, and then they see Litecoin $210. Oh, I better buy the cheap Bitcoin.
Right, exactly. But that's what
I
all
didn't
coins
mean
come into play, right?
Yeah, I didn't mean dead in that sense. It'll live on as a trading asset. I mean, we have Doge.
So, right. Right. We're good now. We don't need Litecoin.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, we have all these things that are just trading vehicles, and when it comes to actual real life usage, Bitcoin, Ethereum, HEX, and maybe a few others, but a lot of these others are just trading vehicles at this point.
Yeah. Actually, wait, only. Do you have like any other chart as well?
Oh yeah. I got a whole set of charts. We can go back to it. The first chart is just really talking about the performance through the first 425 days, which we all know is phenomenal. And as we can see right now, we're at 5,221% for HEX. Ethereum in the first 425 days is only up 1,394%. Bitcoin, 0, right? And this is what, again, I'm trying to highlight. The utility of one system versus the utility that exists currently in the other two at that point in time, right? Because I'm talking about the first 425 days. Now, the next chart is talking about all of the major halving, right? Bitcoin had 3. The first one was in 2012, November 28. The second one was in 2016, July 9th. And the most recent one was in May 11, 2020. So what the upper right is showing is the price performance of HEX. Go ahead.
Actually, just a small question for it. Why is it not really every 4 years? I still don't understand that, because everybody says like Bitcoin halving is every 4 years, and if I look at this right now, it's not like
every 4 years.
4 years, you know.
So let me explain. It's actually every 210,000 blocks.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So the 4 years is just a general, easy way to explain it.
Yeah, it's just a
but
general.
Then for everybody in the audience, if you're like wondering why it's not like the
precisely 4 years apart.
Yeah.
That's why. Because it's every 210,000 blocks, and if you think about it, it makes sense given that the price is higher. That the time stretch between the 2010 blocks is actually shorter, right? We started in November, but then by the time we got to 4 years later, it was 4 months earlier. And then 4 years forward, it's 2 months earlier than the previous 4-year cycle, right? So what that is showing you is a growth in the network over time. That's what that's actually showing you. So that's why I wanted to highlight it, because what we're seeing here is really how HEX is just outperforming from the start, right? Literally from the start, right? Because what this chart is showing is just the price action after big payday. Now, after big payday, it immediately went to 240%. Immediately. Very important to note, right? And I don't know if you guys watched my first videos or any of the streams I did after that, but this is, HEX is a log-based 2 function. So when it stops at a number that functions off of base 2, which is, 2, 8, 8, 16, 32, and so on and so forth, it's important that we pay attention to those values because they're very, very critical. So we come to 240 most recently, or 256, and then we stop again here at 240 in the 250 area, basically. So the question now becomes, what is HEX doing? It just halved, right? It just had the big hit payday, and that's the only halving we're really going to see in HEX. So what that's saying is that from here on out, it should be straight up, because the first halving and Bitcoin is the orange line with the blue hue, which is what you're seeing here, which is currently showing at 242% basically after the first 86 days of its occurrence. Okay.
I mean, I like the chart, yeah, but I have to disagree that we can compare that because,
Really? Interesting. I want to hear it.
Every halvening in Bitcoin means that the new inflation of Bitcoin is reduced by 50%, right?
Correct.
The one big payday, which wasn't a halving, was just like the end point of the creation of the launch phase of HEX. And since this day until like all time, the daily inflation of HEX will generally increase.
No, it's not going to generally increase.
Of course, because the total, the payout, the daily payout total is generally increasing. It's just fluctuating because of penalties.
But that's a T-share rate, and you only experience that if you're actually
that's the inflation of HEX. It's what is
so let's go over the inflation of HEX.
Stake,
I get what you're saying. But let's go over the details. So HEX inflation is actually a constant 3.69%. Period. Everything on top of that requires you to stake and be a staker. It's not something that the system
I agree, but without the period, because it's not 3.69 period. But yeah, because
okay. So let me rephrase.
Yeah.
The baseline inflation is 3.69. That doesn't change. That's never going to change. And I learned that from you guys. That's the funny thing. It's 3.69 inflation
like
every
the
day.
daily inflation on HEX is based on all ever minted HEX. Only if you end a stake, you mint new HEX.
Yeah. That's a fact. So that's why inflation doesn't happen every day.
And with the big payday, which is also like newly created, so like newly minted HEX, we are not 100% sure if like for this year the 3.69% is 100% correct. Because we with the payday measuring and so on,
I get what you're saying.
We just had it in our keynote that we said we assumed the 3.69% because if you try to do it like really correctly, it's just a mess because you don't know like how much each and every stake will be worth, and like it's not.
You would literally have to have the start point in time for that for every stake in order to know exactly what that valuation is going to be at the end. But here's a shortcut. And this is why I can say the things that I say and present this chart this way. Because
still again, based on human behavior.
Yeah, because here's the thing. 3.69 inflation is the baseline. Everything else is a function of the system and how you interact with it. It's not the baseline. So what happened on Big Payday is everything that the system has as of day one came out of the system. That was the inflationary push out. That was the equivalent of a share split or dividend stock, dividend stock split, or I'm sorry, not a dividend stock split, but a stock share split, right? So what that means is if you had any T shares prior to the Big Payday, then you received the additional inflation that the system was going to generate on that day, right? Now, what does that actually mean? What that means is that those additional HEX were actually put in staked accounts only. They did not hit the system. So there's no actual inflation.
So
that only happens. That only happens. And this is why it's very important that we understand T-shares. That only happens at the end of each respective stake. That is the only time inflation is printed. And we're going to see that because I got a chart that shows exactly that. Because you're right. Right? But the thing about it is this chart is very important because what this chart is going to show, and you got to remember, it's not even 90 days old. Not even 90 days old, right? It's very important. This is a very young chart. Now, look at how long it took Bitcoin to get up off the ground after its first halving. This is what I want to highlight with this chart. The first halving. Every iteration after that was even slower to get up, right? HEX literally just woke up and just ran.
I mean, is this third halving index correct? Because I remember the halving was in May, no? And I remember that Bitcoin was 7,000 euros, so around 8,000 something, $9,000
in May, right? Yeah,
in May, and right now we are like today 48,000. So
this is again. I'm keeping in track with the 86 days. Yeah, I'm keeping in track with HEX.
So it's like what Bitcoin did from the 20th of November?
Right. From the from the not from the 20th of November, from
the May halving.
The May halving, from the 11th of May.
Actually from the May halving, Bitcoin did a 5x when I
You're thinking from there to now. I'm talking about the first 90 days after that. This is time sliding. These are the first like the 86 days. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got it. You know what? I see why you're confused. It's just the titling. See why you're confused because I had the first X days on the other one, but I didn't put it on this one. So let me update that.
I mean, now it's clear. It's okay. Yeah, but that's why.
But that's the thing. That's why it's important that I title the charts correctly because I want things to be kind of not obvious, but at least easier to understand from the jump. Because again, what I'm doing is I'm comparing instances in time. That's what I'm doing. I took all of these data points and I'm comparing them side by side. This is what HEX is doing at age 90 days versus what Bitcoin is doing at age 90 days versus what Ethereum is doing at age 90 days. That's why I think it's very important. These charts are very important because they highlight reality. they really highlight reality, and the reality is the performance of HEX versus the performance of Bitcoin at every iteration at which it halved, right? And that's what this chart is highlighting, not the overall performance, just a very specific slice of time. That's what this chart is highlighting. And I got more charts, and the next chart is going to show you the T-share value versus the value of Bitcoin as a percentage and Ethereum as a percentage.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, a lot of people like this chart because it really shows kind of what we call in regular business wallet share, or in finance something called wallet share. Now, here's the funny thing, right? Because this is just price, right? All of these charts are only talking about price up until this point. I'm not even talking about interest. And this is what people don't understand when it comes to the power of HEX. We're only talking price. Like, in reality, price is irrelevant. At the end of the day,
yeah, especially if you're a long-term stake handler,
exactly.
Especially if you're like doing stake, especially if you stake like this system, this HEX smart contract, try to lead you towards like that you go for 10 years or more.
Right.
And I mean the sweet spot is the Quattro Cinco stake, like the max out stake. Right. Because when we did our model, it showed like how much interest this stake will earn like in the last 2 years.
It doesn't make sense.
It's mind blowing, It's really nice.
It doesn't make sense. I mean, look, when I put all these charts
actually, it makes sense. It makes sense because if you're
that's the thing, it doesn't. It's too much money.
but like a few people are saying but if this is the case, this whole system is not made for the long term. It will break on a certain point or something.
People don't understand.
But if you think about it, it will be less and less and less of those stakes competing with your own 15-year stake.
Correct.
So there won't be like mass stakes around you who all earn that much money. It will just be like the few hundred stakes who had this foreseeing 15 years ago.
Long-term vision, let's call having a long-term vision, and that's that. And again, it really ties back to the message I'm trying to preach. And the message I'm trying to preach is: do you guys want to trade pump and dumps, or do you just want to sit back, relax, and get rich? Like, there's two ways of doing that, and sitting on your hands is the easiest way of getting wealthy. It's not actively participating in markets, especially if you really are new and you really aren't aware, right? Like, it's one thing for Cabana or me, which I've been participating in financial markets since, God knows when, to sit here, see an opportunistic opportunity in legacy markets and take it as a day trade or a multi-day trade or something akin to what we will call a position trade, where we're sitting in it for 30 to 90 days, right? What we're talking about here, that is not going to make you rich. It's not going to make you rich, and it's definitely not going to make you wealthy, because what happens is that on a long enough timeline,
and it doesn't make you a better person, and it stresses you out even more, and so on and so forth.
Because you have to, a lot of people are trading to live off of those funds, and I get it because I did it. I already
I get it as well, I did it as well.
I mean, that's the thing. I think most people that are in crypto, and I'm pretty sure Abbott and Cabana could agree, probably have gone through that process. I mean, I was still going through it, man, the other day, right? Like, if you're trying to make money from money, it's not easy. And that's kind of what HEX helps you understand. And that's kind of what, I'm when I found HEX and I saw those returns, I mean, the first thing you think is, this can't be real. First thing you think is it can't be real, because when you look anywhere on the planet, right, you can't even get a 10% interest rate for 30 years. What are you talking about? 40%. It makes no sense, right? And this chart, right, the first, this T-share BTC, this T-share versus ETH and T-share versus BTC chart are showing the percentage values with respect to each Ethereum and Bitcoin. The pink line is as a percentage of Ethereum, and the orange line is the T-shares as a percentage of Bitcoin. Now, as we can see, we've kind of been just going sideways for like the past 300 days, right? Now, the first 90 days, we kind of went sideways and then, moved up. And then for, it seems like another 30 days, we just set a new floor, and then we went up again, right? So what I think this chart is showing is, we have to understand HEX is very new. It's brand new. People are just learning about it, and it's catching on pretty quickly, if you ask me, Because when I first got into Hex, I don't even think there was 20,000 stakers, and this was just 3 months ago. Now all of a sudden we have 26,500 almost.
Yeah, we went about a bit over 20,000 right before the big payday.
Right. Yeah, I didn't. That's exactly right. Yeah, I didn't.
And then, like
remember
in the rally from big payday till New Year, we
definitely went
gained
up.
a few thousand more, because I know right now everybody is complaining about fees. But yesterday I looked up a transaction from a friend of mine who invested in Hex a month ago, and it was with 40 Gwei, you know, and it was like a fast transaction a month ago with 40 Gwei. So to everybody out there who is like pretty new, don't worry, fees will go down as well, because Hex is still one of the most efficient smart contracts on the market. So imagine if you're like in a different smart contract, you have even more problems with that.
Pretty much. That's the funny thing, man. Like, imagine being in some random coin and then having to do something that requires you to jump through I don't know how many protocols before you actually get access to your coins. Those people are really paying the $100 fees, the $200, the $300, the $400 fees. They're really paying, right? Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. People don't understand how gas fees work. And again, this is all math. This is just an equation at every point that you come across.
But Wales only, I need to say right now that it's not that easy to grasp, you know.
Oh no, I get it. That's why I'm relaying the information.
You know, if you're like a new user, you have like slow, normal, and fast, and you just see some numbers, and you have to go on advanced, and then you see like two numbers where you don't know what they're meaning.
Yeah, you don't know. I still kind of don't understand it, so I get it. I just know what I know. And what I know is this is all math, because we have to remember, this isn't something that somebody's telling you, yeah, we'll back it up. It's not a verbal promise, right? Like what we have today with money is a fake promise. What we know is money, which is fiat currency, is not actually money, right? So if you're coming into crypto, you're coming in under the guise that you're going to make quick money, not understanding that this is not that. So, you know, when somebody walks into a bar they've never been to before, or into a party or a house they've never been to before, they should probably figure out what they're walking into before they walk into it. So that's a long way of saying.
I need to disagree on this again, because I went in a lot of bars, not that
that's the thing. That's the thing, right? We all, there's a whole, I love Germany. You can buy a beer out of a vending machine. Most people don't know that. That's right. Right out of a vending machine for cheap too, and a good beer, not no BS. Very good beer. But here's the thing, right? It took me a while to figure Germany out. I knew I couldn't just walk around, go hop on the Hopton off, and just go ride everywhere. It doesn't work like that. You have to learn the environment you're in first before you can. So let me put it like this: you have to know the rules of the game before you can play the game. Right? If you walk out there and you go try to face, somebody from Manchester United to speak football, but you guys understand, they're going to pounce you. They're going to make you look like you weren't even on the field. And that's what should happen. That's exactly what should happen. So if you walk into a trading exchange and you think you're going to go make money and you've never traded before, you're going to get what's coming to you. That's exactly what's right. Just like happened to me, just like happened to all of us when we first entered markets, right?
According to the charts, around 80% are still doing exactly that when it comes to margin trading exchanges.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. That's kind of like, that's why my message is so different. My message is not the message you're going to hear on any other crypto channel. It's not. And it's not because Hex is the best and Hex staking, blah, blah, blah. It's because the math says this is what the fuck you got to do, right? Yep. If you want to get wealthy, math dictates how you make that happen. I didn't respect it for a long time. And now I'm out here putting the message out. Hey, I got a math degree, guys. I did XYZ for 10 years. Yeah, I made some money, but guess what? I still have to work. I still am not wealthy. I am still not Richard Hart, right? Like everybody wants to get to that level where they can just do whatever the F they want and do whatever the F they want and do whatever the F they want, right? Not everybody can do what Richard Hart did and create a gift for the world. That requires time and money, right? And I think that's what we're all secretly trying to get to that point, whether we know it or not.
I think I was going to say, just touching on the fees, that's kind of like a different set of FOMO right now.
It is.
a joking, I half joke and say about it, but I was just playing around, with some fees last week, and USD was 122 USD, and my message here is patience, because I tried it back within, I'd say, 20 minutes. That $122 USD fee went down to 52.
Right.
So it's, there's, great gas charts. I think HEX.Vision has one.
Yeah.
I mean, if you catch it in one of those spikes, you're going to pay up. But if you just try to exercise a little patience, chances are, if you're at the top of one of those daily or hourly fee cycles, just wait a minute and check it again. Don't go on your first one, and you can probably save some gas.
Yeah, I mean, I had a private talk yesterday from somebody I onboarded, and like her first stake was ready to end stake, and I said, yeah, let's meet. Yeah, and honestly, I already chose an hour where I thought maybe fees will be quite good, and I was like
Smart.
totally right. So yesterday, exactly, she came on, we did this thing. I said, yeah, put with 100 Quay. Yes, it's okay, no. And I guess the low of yesterday was like 88 Quay or something like that. So it was done in 5 minutes. So
That's great.
As you said, check HEX.Vision. Then you see on the left side fees. It's also like the word new next to it. And if you scroll down a bit, you see like the days of the week, and you see like the range
The
from
heat map. I think it's called the heat map.
Yeah, exactly. It's the fee heat map.
Yeah.
And as I said, so I think in the next 4 to 6 weeks, fees will be better as well, I guess. Because I guess in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we maybe see another wave entering crypto, and then we would be due to another 30% correction.
Right.
And usually in those corrections, like not right at the correction, but when
Eventually.
then
eventually.
and the fees are going down.
Yeah, because again, like I said earlier, it's really like this is all math, right? This is all code behind in a computer, right? Where equations have to do certain things in order for them to actually function. So another tip that I'd like to give viewers is if you put in a transaction just to check the fee, right? And the last thing you want to do is check it a minute later, because what you're doing is now you're double clogging the system, and it's causing the fees to go up. Because again, it's taking that as an input. Everything you do, anytime you click a mouse, right? We're sitting behind computer screens. Anytime you click a mouse, this is an input into a function. So we have to remember that. This is why I came out with the message I came out with. This is all math, no matter what we want to think of it. This is all math. That's why anytime you click a mouse, value goes up or it goes down. It's not it's not so much that it's because humans are interacting with it, but it's because that's how the system works. And humans are interacting with it. So it's going to behave kind of like that and kind of like not. Right.
Yeah,
so
I have also like 2 more tips. Like if you're doing it with the stake app, then you can talk with the guy who onboarded you, or you can also talk with Firepan or Steph. Just ask like, when should I do my letter? What do you guys recommend? Like in terms of day and time. And if you're doing it without the stake app on your own, what I saw, just to put Ethereum into HEX like the straight way, still Uniswap version 2 is the best. And when doing it like with easehex.com, then avoid the so-called route, that it don't goes from ETH to Wrapped ETH to USDT to USDC. Once I already saw DAI and then to HEX, So like the more routing you need with your transaction, the more you pay, because the higher your gas limit needs to be in order to calculate this transaction. But if you don't have any route, if you go like directly from ETH to HEX, you have it needs the least computation power, so the least gas limit, and that's why it's the cheapest form of swapping right now. And also the 1-inch exchange goes always over the Wrapped ETH router, so there is one more step of calculation, which depending the Gwei fees, but which might be a difference of $5 to $10.
Yeah, I mean every and that's the thing. Every daisy chain link, every link in the chain adds a computation, and every time there's an additional link,
you need
right,
more
you're gonna need
gas
more
in
gas.
it because it needs more
time,
more
more time equals
calculation
more money.
to calculate
Mhm.
to process this kind of transaction.
Yeah.
You can also look it up, like if you look up those bot transactions where they are going through 6 different coins, and then in the end they end up with ETH, and if executed well, they end up with more ETH than in the beginning, but they are paying like $100, $200, $300 per. I guess those are like arbitrage bots. So for
Right, they're trying to get
transactions.
executed in the same block. That's why they pay so much.
Yeah,
because there's
because
no other way.
I mean, do you know like how to get rid of them?
How to get rid of the bots?
Yeah, because of what I
Shut
see,
the
I
internet
see
down?
that they are sucking out value of Hex.
Yeah, so you got to understand these are automated bots, right? This isn't actually a person clicking a thing. These things,
I know.
yeah, they're ever like the problem is that they're ever like I don't think you can shut them off. That's kind of like what I'm getting to because of how they work. There's like shutting off HFT. So let me explain. Back in 2008, 2009, like basically after the financial crisis, what ended up happening is that the exchanges started giving preference to certain type of traders. And those traders were akin to what you're talking about now. They were basically bots. So what ultimately happened is that they were like piranha in a pond, literally a pond. So they ended up eating each other alive because what ended up happening is that there's nobody playing with them because they ended up killing all the prey. So they ultimately ended up killing each other off. So what would ultimately fix this is time, because these bots are able to do what they do because crypto markets are still very inefficient because there's not a lot of players in it, right? So ultimately,
yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's like really because of inefficiency, but if I want to invest like $10,000 or a bit more, then I should increase my slippage from 1% to 3%, let's say. And if those automatic bots see like a Uniswap transaction put there with a 3%,
right? I was just gonna ask you that. So, do you know when the bots do you know how they sniff out? Or I'm not sure exactly how they work because I just know how they work. I don't know exactly how they work. But if they're able to sniff out your gas, like what you're putting in terms of limits of Gwei, if they can sniff that out, then they're always gonna beat you because they're always gonna just put more.
Yeah. So what I see, they are sniffing it out. Like as soon as you say confirm at your MetaMask,
Then
like
then
you
it goes on
want
the
to swap
blockchain.
10 ETH for Hex. Yeah, you go
You're right.
MetaMask, and then you press confirm. Then
it hits the
this
chain.
transaction gets
it's a pending transaction
on the
automatically.
blockchain.
Yeah, it's a pending transaction automatically. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I didn't like again. I haven't thought about it. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that
so
makes sense
they are taking the pending transaction from the contract.
Right. Yeah, and I can see it again because all they have to do is up the Gwei. They don't have to do anything else. They automatically skip you just based on that. If it's a flat so this is what was happening in legacy finance. In legacy finance, what they were doing was because you have centralized exchanges all over the nation, right? But they're connected electronically. So what you can do is you can a bot can go buy on one exchange, sell on another immediately. Right, they don't even because there's no such thing as a.
I mean, you already see this as well because now we have OneInch exchange, we have Uniswap, we have SushiSwap, we have and
no, you're right.
They are already going through all these different contracts.
Right, because the DEX aggregators, right, what they're doing is they're compiling all the different prices from all the different markets that are out there, and they're trying to create a centralized exchange, but not.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, there is a question from the chat as well. Like, what if you place and cancel the transaction to mess with the bots? I mean, actually, if you want to do if you did the transaction, you want to execute it as well, because otherwise, why should you just place a transaction? And then you need to manually cancel it
It's a
before it
process.
gets executed, where you
Yeah,
again
I wouldn't play that one.
Yeah, it's
a tricky one. It's a tricky one when you're playing against a bot and you're the human.
yeah, exactly.
A bot doesn't have to do anything but just do what it's supposed to do. A human has to actually think, and then.
But the fact here is that you are going to lose the transaction fee you put there in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, that too. Oh man. Oh yeah. When I first figured that out, I was like, oh, never again. Because you really wouldn't think that, right? But yeah, it's gonna take it, and it makes sense because it's a computation that the system has to do every time, thereby adding or taking value away from the network. I mean, this is so crazy, man. It's so crazy, and it's also like when you sit there and think about how this stuff works, it's really not hard. It's just thinking about it because there's so many steps to everything. Because we're trying to make money disappear, in essence, right? And it's something that we're used to physically holding. So it's very difficult to do something like that and make it disappear. Like social media or email, right? Like searching stuff online is not the same thing as sending value, right? This is actual hard-earned economic value. So the steps have to be a lot more precise. They have to be a lot more deliberate. They have to be a lot more everything. So it adds a lot of complexity to what's trying to be created here. And that's kind of like why I'm trying to bring like the message I bring across. Like, let's keep it simple. Let's not make it all this hoopla. You know, let's buy, stake, and forget about the rest. Because at the end of the day, man, that's the easiest way to secure wealth. It is. If you look at Warren Buffett, that's what he did. If you look at any of the people that are supremely wealthy, that is what they did. They focused on small things that they understood. They piled in because they understood it, and they kept piling in because they understood it, right? And what we're looking at here is that we're looking at a market that not only has a potential to go to the prices of Ethereum and Bitcoin, but actually has a value proposition, an economic value proposition. This does not exist in crypto, period. It doesn't. Like, let me know where it's at because I haven't seen it. It literally does not exist. Now, if you want to sit here and say, you know, finite supply, blah, 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 you know, I got the rebuttals for all of that too. Like, none of that matters. It really doesn't. Bitcoin is up because it's the first one, and that's literally it. That's it. If everybody didn't know Bitcoin, it would not be $50,000. Because again, that's a function of the network effect, strictly. Because what is the value proposition for Bitcoin? Nobody can sit there and tell me besides it was the first and it has a finite supply. And the fact of the matter is that the supply is only critical in that so far as people are willing to pay for the item, right?
Yeah, because I mean, the other value proposition would be to say that it's became a store of value with a decreasing inflation.
That's one way to view it. And that's the thing. There are many ways to view that, but there's nothing concrete to point out to. And that's like what I'm saying, right? Like when you look at HEX, it's pretty obvious what the value proposition is. There's nothing to guess here. It pays you more money. Yeah. What else do you? What other reason are we in here to do? Like, if you're sitting here, right?
I mean, the sentences you just said are also true when it comes to Bitcoin. You know, if you talk to a Bitcoin maximalist, he will say exactly the same words as you right now.
Bitcoin cannot stay flat and pay more.
You are here to want to earn money. Look at the chart.
That's not true. That's not true, right? And that's not true because Bitcoin cannot stay zero and pay you. So that's not true. Bitcoin cannot, stay flat in terms of price appreciation or dilution up and down. It can't go up and down and still pay you. So that's not true. Right. So
yeah, but you haven't mentioned staking right now, like with those sentences right before. So that's why.
So let's talk about that. If you looked at Wrap Bitcoin, have you ever looked at Wrap Bitcoin and like the dollar value for that market and like how many people that actually own Bitcoin put their Bitcoin in Wrap Bitcoin? It's like 2% of that whole market.
Really? It's that much?
No. That little. We're talking about an almost $1 trillion market. Bitcoin is almost $1 trillion market, and nobody that owns Bitcoin is looking to earn yield on their Bitcoin. This is what I'm trying to explain. Because the easiest way to do that is with Wrap BTC, is it not?
Okay. Yeah, but actually, like 2% of all ever minted Bitcoin are in Wrap.
The last time I looked up, I looked up that data probably like a month ago, and that was the number, 2%, like 2.5% maybe of the whole market cap of Bitcoin was in Wrap BTC.
That means 81.8. So that means like 400,000 Bitcoin are in rep BTC?
No. I'm talking about dollar value. I'm talking about dollar value.
Okay, because you said like so not 2% of all Bitcoin.
Not the actual Bitcoin itself, but the dollar value of Bitcoin and wrap BTC. Like the dollar value of wrap BTC versus Bitcoin is only 2%. So what that means is that if you own Bitcoin, you're not really out here looking for more gains. You're just waiting for price to go up. That's what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah, or you go on a margin exchange where you can trade
right, or that.
your
Yeah,
Bitcoin,
sure.
you know.
Yeah, sure, that too. But that's not guaranteeing you any income, right? And that's the
thing.
No,
it's like an 80% guaranteed loss. Yeah, if
right.
you look at the numbers,
I mean, that's the thing, right? And then that's the thing. We're both saying the same thing, coming from different points. Like Hex has a strict an economic value proposition that no other coin has. Every other value proposition in the coin requires you to give up access, to give up control of your coins, to exchange them for something else, and then maybe we'll see if you get something at the end of that. Assuming it doesn't get hacked in the meanwhile. None of that exists in Hex, literally.
That's true. Yeah.
So,
and I hope that Bitcoin don't releases any update in the future.
Well, that's funny because I think even if they do, what are they really gonna do? What update? I mean,
like as it is right now, Bitcoin is working and it's not having any bugs, and I'm, because I don't own much Bitcoin or something like that, but it still worries me because if something happened in the Bitcoin ecosystem, it will automatically affect all other cryptocurrency in the short term,
Sure, I get it. So here's a piece of advice that I give anybody that is worried about something like that. Do yourself the favor, buy $20 in Bitcoin. Let me know how that goes for you. Buy $20 in Bitcoin. Let me know how long it takes you to receive the Bitcoin. Then try to send it somewhere. Let me know how long it takes for that to get to where it's going. Let me know. I'll wait. Don't worry. I got all year.
I did a Bitcoin transaction this week.
Me too. Funny enough. I did a Bitcoin transaction like last week, and I was like, "My God, this thing is really still this slow." Like, this is crazy.
and also, like, if you look at my camera, at the exchanges, then you have so high withdrawal fees for your crypto. Yeah. I mean, for example, I also were always recommending the exchange Bitstamp, like Richard Hart is also doing it, even before he said it. But those are such assholes, honestly, because when I recommended it, the withdrawal fee for your Ethereum was 1,000th of a Ethereum. So 0.001, yeah,
right.
which was still okay given the price of Ethereum back then. Then, like a few months ago, they increased it 5,000% to 0.05. Yeah.
Wow.
So 500ths of
that's insane.
Ethereum.
That's a big price jump.
Yeah, and then like 4 weeks after 4 weeks later, after they announced the 500s, they said, because we are like nice, we decrease our fee for all our users about 20% down to 400 of it.
Wow, that's insane. That's what you get with centralized exchanges, though, man. That's what you get. But yeah, I mean, if you guys want, I got a little bit of time left. I can keep going through the charts.
Yeah, you have more. You have more.
Oh yeah. There's always more, bro. This is like I always send out like a chart pack. It's always like a whole thing.
I got a question for you before you're done.
I love to talk about charts with you.
So let me just go through the charts real quick, and then we can just go back to them. So this is this is like you were saying, Hexline, how the system basically pays out more and more over time, and that's a function of the T-share rate and how the system works.
I mean, you don't see it really here because why this chart is slightly climbing up. Like this one was because of decreasing in the overall share ratio.
Right. Correct. That's exactly how it works.
And because we have like a flat share ratio right now, we also see a flat line, but still, like if you would zoom out and put out the big picture over the years, you will still see
something
a
like
slight
that.
increase.
Yeah, something like that. It's just not as dramatic, right? Because we're talking about the actual payout that the system does, which is that dark pink line, which says daily payout. And so far for yesterday, we had a daily payout of 64 million hex, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then the payout per T-share was 5.906, and then the total shares, total T-shares for the day yesterday was 10 million or 10 trillion. I can't remember. I guess that's 10 trillion.
No, it's 10.84 million trillion or million T-shares.
Yeah, there you go. I can't say a number that big.
It's like it's million T-shares.
Yeah, it's it's millions of T-shares. But however the number works after that. So these are percentage returns, and this is just insane, right? Like the system has paid out that much in terms of a like, all right, you guys can see the numbers. I can email it to you guys after if you want, just so you guys can look at the charts. I mean, it's crazy. This is the payout per T-share sum. The yellow line is all of the hex that has been paid out per single T-share since inception. Again,
how do you put this chart together? You know, with all this start and end staking in between.
So this is what I did. What I did was all I'm doing is taking what the system pays out. So I went to go.hex.com and I took the data points from every single day.
Daily payout total.
Correct. So this payout per T-share sum is the summation of every payout made since the inception of Hex. So the total is 1,476 Hex if you've been staked since day one per T-share. Yeah.
But actually it's more because if you're staked still till 1, you have also the big payday.
Again, we're just talking about the basics, baby. We're not even getting into the fun stuff.
I
haven't even been able to create all these fun charts. Like, this is just the basic stuff, dude. This is why Hex is so crazy, because this is just the basic stuff. We can never really have one stream and talk about everything. It would take 24 hours.
At least.
At least. So this is the T-share rate versus the APY. Now, what we see here is that when big payday happened, the T-share rate jumped.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier with the, reflecting or comparing Bitcoin to Hex, right? Now, when Hex did this was pretty much it in terms of the big one, quote unquote, right? This is going to be the big halving. If you look now a little bit after the big payday, you're going to see there's going to be a little indentation here, which is going to be more big stakes coming out, thereby increasing the T-share rate. And again, a little bit forward, I'm sorry, I lost the mouse a little bit there. The T-share rate jumped again, right? Thereby increasing the rate every day. So let me, Dev Kyle, he's the man, he's the OG.
Can we say little spike instead of jump? Because every time some of you guys are saying like jump, they are expecting that the T-share will do a 3x on the 15th of March or something.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works. It's really just a slow ratchet upward. And the only time, and this is why people say jump, it's a slow ratchet upward, right? And the reason it's a slow ratchet upward is because every single time a stake ends, the end stake function does a computation which results in a higher T-share rate once that computation is done. Now, the reason that happens is because
but there is a detail to it. Only if this stake would get more T-shares if he restake principal plus all his interest.
Correct. But here's the thing.
Here's
the thing. That only applies. That what you're talking about is only after the fact, right? At the end of that end stake, the system is still doing that computation. It is still giving that person that higher T-share or that lower value in terms of T-shares, meaning they have to buy more Hex in order to achieve the same level of interest, right? So that's a distinction here. So even though that person might or might not restake, the system is still doing that computation. It doesn't care, because what happens is that when the system ends that stake, that's it. it just made the T-share rate go up a little bit. So we say a jump because when we're looking at something like that, right? People that are saying a jump understand that there had to be a lot of HEX coming out that day, hence causing the T-share rate to jump from, I don't know, probably.
Actually, that's also not the case,
Sure,
because
go ahead.
also a 1,000 hex principal stake, if this stake is not competing with any other stakes, and it is like the only stake, like the only stake which is that long compared to other stakes who are like 30 days
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
to the
Yeah,
left of it or something.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
And also the small 1,000 hex principal stake can set a new share rate.
Yeah. I mean, they might not be able to set one, but they're still ratcheting the system up, right? Because again, every time a stake comes out, that's a function, brother. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but not every time when a stake comes out, the share rate does it adjust itself. It only
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
It needs to be adjusted.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that it jumps every time. What I'm saying that is that it recalibrates every time. Every time a stake ends, the T-share rate is going to recalibrate. Whether it's higher or not is a different question. But in short, it's going to typically ratchet upward over time, and that's how the system actually gives you that compounding effect, because it's the longer you stay in the system, the longer you benefit from the way the system functions, right?
Exactly. And
go ahead.
It's like that your staking power, your T-shares will become more and more value over the long term.
Right. As long as you're holding them.
Yeah, over the long term. Yeah,
right. As long as you're holding them. Because that's the thing, right? It's about owning the T-shares more than anything else.
So, and like to explain this APY a bit, it's like the average APY is shown here. So if you're a average size, average length staker, which is currently nearly 5 years, so 4.95, I guess you mentioned before, and then you get the 38% or the nearly 40%. But for you as an individual staker, your APY will increase over the years.
Yep.
If you are like in a 10 or 15-year stake, like the longer you're into this stake, the higher your personal APY will be.
And the T-share rate guarantees that, pretty much.
Exactly, yeah, because of the T-share rate, because it's harder and harder to get the same amount of T-shares for the whole network.
Correct.
And therefore, the pool of all T-shares, like this million trillion pool, will decrease in the long run.
Right. So I'll go to the next chart. This is basically like T-share rate versus the T-share in dollar terms. And kind of what this chart shows is how the T-share value is going to basically keep going up higher in line with the T-share rate. And we just talked about how that happens. So every time a stake is ended, T-share values reprice. And as we all know, it'll be in conjunction with the dollar value, kind of HEX, not kind of, right? Because it's a function of it. It's not exactly it. And I think you guys actually talked about the T-share dollar value in your keynote, if I remember correctly.
No.
You guys just talked about the rate, the what do you call it? The inflation rate then. But I remember hearing,
I
remember somebody talking about that and the T-share rate. It must have been like around the same time, because I kind of remember them together for some reason.
I mean, we in our Kareem stream we talked about the T-share rate.
That might have been why.
So Kareem brought it up. That this is my favorite chart right now.
Yeah. Well, it gets better. Hold on, I got one that's better, which I just came up with it the other day, and I'm still trying to understand it. So what I have here is 10,000 HEX versus the T-shares versus the T-share over 10,000 HEX, which is basically the share rate. So what I think is interesting to note is how at the start of HEX, right, if you're looking at the lower left part of the chart, it looks just like it does right now, doesn't it? Just a different point in time. So I'm going to keep tracking it to see if this is just going to be. Hey, you see what I'm. I know you see what I'm. Yeah. Imagine if this ends up being the case, right? I mean, this is literally just like the stock to flow model for Bitcoin, which can be trade. You know, that you know what the number is going to be, 21 million. So you can do the math easily. With Hex, it's not as simple.
No.
So, you know, you can take the supply and kind of drag it out. But as we know, it's dynamic and it's not going to be a fixed variable, right, moving forward. So that's something that would change every day. But we can kind of guesstimate that, okay, it's definitely time to look to buy Hex if, you know, it goes around 1 cent, for example, because it looks like that's the most recent fair value per the t-shirt rate, because that's where it did a whole lot of sideways action for the past, I don't know, from day 135 through the big payday, basically. So that's 200 days of price action right around where that t-shirt rate basically floated around.
Yeah, but I mean, Wales, is it really? Because
no, because it's a log chart.
But you know, the t-share rate or the share price what you have here, you have a linear scale, and the Hex price you have in there is a logarithmic scale. And actually, like what you are referring to, a sideway.
They're both log. Both scales are log, because this is a logarithmic function, brother. I can't have a linear function for Hex. No cryptocurrency should be looked at in anything.
Yeah, I know, but the share rate is a linear function. What you have in here, though. The share rate is not
the share rate. I got you. The share rate, but the share rate is a rate, right? What that's doing is that it's yielding a valuation of where things could go, right? Because what we're seeing at the bottom left of the chart is the fact that the t-shirt rate started at 10,000 and the system had to catch up. That's what this is showing, because that's the value proposition in the system, right? So what I'm hypothesizing here, I don't know this to be the truth, but we will find out eventually. What I'm hypothesizing is the system will recalibrate over time, every single time, to reflect this value, this economic value proposition, because that's how reality works. It's not Dogecoin. Sorry, it's not. It's a economic value proposition. Again, it all ties back to math. Nothing I'm talking about here is, you know, like really what I care or think about. Like, this is what the data is showing. And the data is showing that if price is cheap, it's going to go to where it's supposed to go. Will that be the case in the future? I don't know. We'll see. But
and as I see, so like the 10,000 Hex in dollars, this is, there you have a logarithmic scale, no, on the left side.
Yes. The left side is logarithmic scale. That's correct.
16, 32.
The y-axis on the left-hand side is the T-share dollar value in conjunction and the 10,000 Hex dollar value. The axis, the right-hand side, is the t-shirt rate over the 10,000 Hex, which is just the same thing as the t-shirt rate over, you know, Hex. It's the same thing. It's just like this chart that I had before, just a little different, because we're not just looking at the t-shares, we're looking at the t-shares as a function of the value that we're paying for Hex, right? Because we're dividing it by 10,000 Hex. And that's, I still don't really understand what I did here, but I think I do. And when I think I figure it out, I'll let everybody know. I'm not holding anything close to my chest. I'm here to share everything I have with the community, but I really don't, I hope that I'm right, but I don't know that I will be. But if I am, that'll be a hell of a thing to see in the future. I mean, imagine this basically is telling us we're going to see 4 cents shortly, and then thereafter maybe 6, because it's already in between 512% and 1,024%. Or I'm sorry, not percent, but dollar value. Yeah. Because the t-shirt rate is reflecting that on the left-hand side, right?
Yeah.
And this is the thing. It's like I'm normalizing the t-shirt rate with the 10,000 Hex. This is what this chart is showing. Now, what normalizing means is that I'm taking something and reflecting the value of that thing in conjunction with the thing I'm dividing it by. And the thing I'm talking about here is the t-shirt rate divided by 10,000 Hex. So I'm trying to normalize, and I'm trying to see what is normal for the t-shirt rate versus the current Hex valuation. That's kind of what this chart is showing. And
I mean, actually, like this line from the 512, am I right that it's like around 5 cents?
It's about right, yeah, about 4.5, 5 cents. That's the estimate that I would give it in dollar value relative to where Hex is right now. Correct. So
Cool.
again,
So
I think it's interesting to note that if you look at graphhex.com or graphhex.rocks, sorry, graphhex.rocks, it shows you what the T-share rate is there. It's 1.6 something.
yeah.
So I found
because
it interesting that
the other internet site you're referring to was hexgraphs.com.
Ah, there you go. I had them backwards. There you go. Yeah, hexgraphs.com. Right. They have a whole slew of pretty charts there. So this line, if you look at the graphhex.rocks site, they have the actual T-share rate reflected there, and it happens to be 1.6 something.
Yep.
Right. So the question I'm asking myself is, well, is the T-share really just supposed to catch up to that over time, or what? Because that's the actual question. Because again, Hex has an actual economic value proposition versus the rest of the crypto market that does not have one. Right. It's very important to understand that.
I would say 2 actually.
2? Oh, really?
Yeah. Like the staking feature and like the game theory behind the staking feature.
Yeah,
and
right.
because it's a finished product.
Well, that makes it 3. Boom. Even better than I
what is the third? What is the third?
So you said staking, the game theory? I call those 2 separate things because you got many coins that can stake and don't have the game theory.
Yeah, I mean like the like how you can stake it. Yeah, this is the value proposition because just staking is not the value as you can also stake other cryptos.
Right, correct.
So this and that it's a done product because I don't know like how many cryptocurrencies are really done. Maybe
none. Zero.
Theta maybe because it's like just a centralized shit.
Theta isn't done. Have you been on theta.tv? There's no way that's done.
Okay, yeah, no.
There's no way.
I just realized that they printed another billion like 2 days before.
Well, there you go. Yeah. No, this is the thing. This is the only financial product in crypto. This is crypto. And here I will add period at the end of that. Nobody can refute that. I'm very serious.
I agree at this.
Yeah, I know you will. I like talking with you guys. I like the pushback. You know, I need to push back because I have to be able to explain things so that I make sure everybody understands it. It's important. It's very important. It's very important. And I hope that this chart is what we all have to look forward to every day, because I really think that's what it's saying, but only time will tell. Only time will tell. And hopefully, you know, we all have something to look forward to.
Only you could go ahead and onboard some whales, you know.
I've been doing that. Don't think I don't. I do. I do. You guys got to remember, I walk on Wall Street, so you know, people over there are looking for you too. They're looking for you too.
Hey, I do have a question for Whales. Do you have? I mean, do you have like a go-to chart just for onboarding? Like, if you could pick one and be like, all right, this is the one where I think someone, even the most casual of people, and
actually, yeah, I do. Now that you mention it, I actually do. And that chart is what led me to do all of this craziness. And it's that chart I posted. I'll find it and post it earlier, and I'll CC all of you guys so you guys can see it. It's a chart comparing Ethereum or Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Hex. And the funny thing about it is when you look at this chart, they all look the same, just at different stages. And that's what prompted me to create all of these charts showing these specific instances in time. That's why I did all these charts, because that chart shows you where Hex is going pretty freaking clearly. You either want to see it or you don't. And I'll share it later on with you guys, like I said, because it's a crazy chart to look at. And that's what made me do all of this crazy stuff, because it's obvious when you look at that chart. So my pitch is, my pitch for Hex is literally this. Would you like to buy a CD that only goes up in value and pays you 40% interest? You tell anybody on Wall Street that shit, number one, they're not going to believe you. Number two, their interest is going to be piqued. So they're going to want to know more. And once you show them that chart and you explain, it's straightforward. They're going to dump all their money in it because it's a no-brainer. We just all saw Bitcoin. So if anybody's seen Bitcoin and you're like, hey, here, I have the latest Bitcoin, and this is why. It sells itself. It really does. Because, you know, like you guys mentioned earlier, it's quality over quantity. I'm not here trying to onboard everybody. I don't care about that. I care to onboard people that actually get it and actually deserve it.
Yeah. Who want to hear about it? Yeah, I also I just talk with people, and if they don't come to me afterwards, I don't care at all.
Right.
Because Hex also doesn't care if you buy or you don't buy. It's still a finished product which is here. So it's all opportunity, and I really enjoy it. Yeah, when I come back to those people like 3 months later, 6 months later, 1 year later, and then we talked back then, and should I calculate for you like how much money you missed?
It's funny. I got a couple of friends that I onboarded around the same time, or both before Big Payday, and I talked to them probably yesterday or the other day, and I asked them like, "How's it going, man? How you liking it so far?" And they just haven't stopped buying. That's all I have to say about that. So, I mean, again, man, the math settles it all, and this is why I created all these charts, just to show everybody, this is what the math is saying. Everybody just needs to relax. Everybody that's been in Hex is up. Nobody is down. What's the whole, what is everybody stressing?
What I saw over the New Year pump, there were 3 addresses who bought in between the buy and the sell. So those 3 might be down or still,
Well, I mean, it pays to be on time, right? It always pays to be on time.
Really, like if you look at the chart and if you go back on the daily candles, you see that there were only, I don't know, like 20, 25 days in the past where the Hex price was higher than today.
Yep. No, you're right. It's not that many. It's not that many days. It's not.
Yeah.
But the thing to understand about markets is if things happen the way they're supposed to happen, you can't it's important to note that when Hex runs up into the value of the T-shares, it comes down. There's a reason for that. That means overvaluation. That means the price should not be that high. So it technically has to come down just by pure math, right? And that's what we've been seeing lately. But interestingly enough, if you now look at what happened previously with T-share as a value of Ethereum, we never stopped going up until we actually hit that 40% mark. So what I'm thinking is what we're seeing now is just another dip to buy. But, time will tell as always. But it's important to also note that the moving averages are sloping up.
Yeah, I mean, also like from a chart analysis perspective, it looks like because the last high was 2 cents. Now we reached a bit under 1 cent, which is 52% minus, something like that. It was also good that we had a correction because we went from 0.2 cents up to 1.5 cents, which is, I don't know, 1,300% up or something like that. No. Sorry. 500, 600, 700% up. And from there, it was also good, more or less, there that we touched 1 cent once again. And my second theory is that before the Big Payday, somebody thought to himself, if Hex goes back up to 1.5 cents, I will sell. And because it was like 149 something, and then boom.
Yeah, well, funny enough, I find it interesting that there's always a lot. Like anytime somebody sells, I don't know if you guys notice this, but I noticed it. Anytime somebody sells in Hex, it's always a ton of Hex. Never a little bit. When we get like a significant down move, right? Well, obviously, right? But what I mean is that it seems to be individual actors, not a market move, right? So there's a difference between a bunch of players coming and selling versus one big person selling. Now that tells you a lot. That tells you that the system itself, meaning the market, the ecosystem, doesn't care about that one individual because it never follows those big players. Very important to note that. That's kind of like why I don't like Big Payday is a perfect example. I mean, I'm never going to forget that price action. It was so amazing to see live how price hit 0.2 cents and it just bounced like it hit a rock. I had never seen anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, we were buying it up live. So
oh really? Oh, that was you guys.
Part of this week. I'm in there too.
Well, congratulations. My friend bought some in there. I wanted to wait. And this is when I started learning, like, oh, Hex is not like everything else. Big Payday.
Well, I was sure that the lowest price will be 19s or 20s of November.
Yeah.
I was
sure
sure
of that.
since February about that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure of that. That's the funny thing. I wasn't sure about that, and that's the reason that I kind of get it even more interested in Hex, because now I don't know if Cabana's ever noticed this, but in legacy markets, once price touches a specific area and it closes in that area, it typically has to go down and retest that area and then travel up.
It had when you're, because you need to think like who made the pump before the big payday.
Right.
Not only new stakers, also traders. Yeah.
Correct.
So they leaded the sell-off. Yeah. And when you look at the Hex versus Ethereum chart, you see nearly a double bottom.
Yes.
Actually, nearly a triple bottom.
Yeah,
right
nearly
now.
a triple. That's a funny thing. If you look at the ETH Hex chart, it's almost a flat line except for certain points in time. Almost a flat line.
It like spiked in April, May, and then it spiked before big payday. 1st of November, I guess, was the highest point.
Yeah, yep.
And then like the little spike with the New Year's pump.
Hex has some sticky points, just like traditional market charts, like Wales was alluding to there. So right before big payday, we hung around. I'm trying to see my chart here. I guess it was like right around a penny.
Yeah, it was
or
right around
slightly below, and it was a little over a week, and we kind of stalled out there before the big payday dump, and then it went back up, went back through it, kind of held above it. This recent, I guess, past 2 weeks, we went below it. Now we went back above it, and guess where we bounced off of? A penny again. So they have their sticky points.
Yeah, I mean, I made a price analysis yesterday evening, and I also said, I mean, I know it won't make you feel happy right now, like to my audience, because I said it can go up or down. But first with the ETH chart, I said, okay, next week we could sit here with prices over 2,000, or we can sit here with prices around 1,500 as well. So I don't know. And then the Hex price was still up at 120 or something, because we streamed before the dump. So and there I also said, Hex is a volatile currency, so there is a chance that we go back down to 1 cent again. And I guess 4 hours after the stream, I already made the screenshot with 0.99 of a cent.
I mean, Hex is just a beautiful thing, man. It's just a beautiful beast. It really is. It really, really is.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about the Hex price for this year?
Oh boy.
Everybody loves to ask me that question. Now, I base my initial number on math, right? So what I'm guessing is if this does take off, like after like the first Bitcoin halving did, we should easily see $10 at the end of the year.
What?
$10 at the end of 2021. Sounds crazy, right?
I'm hoping for 10 cents.
Just wanted to show you that he wants to overtake you as a meme guy.
$7, $10, that's totally possible. What I did to get to this number is look what the liquidity was, and look how much money could invest in Hex, how much money knows about Hex. You can see how many people took their Bitcoin and got free claim. You can see how many people got Uniswap token and had Ethereum on the side. And if you gather all this money together and throw it into Hex, it can be an astronomical number, not even $7, or even like it can be $100, for example.
Yeah,
because it's so much money that knows about Hex,
But actually, Wales, how do you come up in referring like to mass with $10?
Yeah, so check this out. Institutions are waking up to the reality of crypto and the fact that they have to get in. If not, they're going to get left behind.
Exactly, but they're going into the stuff which already works and which is already here for years. So Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Right. But here's the thing. They don't actually know shit about Bitcoin or Ethereum. Right.
But every influencer they are working with are just recommending them Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Right. So what do you think is going to happen when they realize they made a mistake? Because
I don't think that they will realize it in this year, because this year will be a full run, and no matter if they put like to Litecoin, to Bitcoin, to Ethereum, or to fucking IOTA their money, they will make money.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, sadly, I don't forgot about that, because especially in the German community, this coin was hyped so much in 2017, and there are still like those idiotas.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel your pain, brother, because I almost got into that one, so I feel your pain.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: people in finance are looking for yield. They're not looking to jump through hoops, and that's where I'll leave it. In Hex, there's no jumping through hoops. It's pretty straightforward. Nothing else in crypto is straightforward. It's that simple. You can buy all the Bitcoin and Ethereum you want. Eventually, these people are going to be like, okay, what else am I supposed to do with this? They're going to start learning about the market. And what do you think? Do you think they're not going to find Hex? You think they're going to go to Coin Market Crap and look? No, that's not what professionals do. So again, my presumption is based on the fact that once people wake up to what's going on in crypto, we're all going to
not this year.
It might not be this year. It might be next year. But here's the thing. We're going to see $10 sooner rather than later. It's not going to be 2024. It's going to be 2022,
I need to laugh if you mention $10, because I know like what place I am in the network. I know like how much money my Hex is worth with this price right now. I know how many people are above me. I know how many people would become millionaires if you are at $10.
I get you.
You can't. It's like just seeing buying pressure and not anticipating selling pressure on the other hand.
So again, you have to remember how these markets work. These markets are literally linear. You know what linear is? Linear means that once something happens to this equation, it gets skewed greatly. So what am I trying to say with that? So what happens if one day on an off chance, some institution becomes aware, not some crypto hedge fund, okay? An actual institution with hundreds of billions in assets. Billions.
Like BlackRock's or what?
Whoever. Because there's many. There's many.
Yeah. But as an example, BlackRock's would be such an example.
Right. That's an example that people will probably know more than any other. And what happens when they figure out there's actual yield somewhere that's real, that doesn't require anything in terms of anything, like that does not exist. So when people laugh at the $10 forecast, it's because they just don't understand financial markets, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, understand what it is I'm saying. Don't just laugh at it. I'm saying something that's very deliberate and very pointed. This could happen tomorrow, man. Bitcoin went from $0 to $30 in 2 years.
Yeah, so not tomorrow.
But no, it could happen. You're not understanding. People are aware crypto exists now. It's not a hidden secret like it was 5 years ago. Don't discount that. Everybody is discounting that. It's new, but that newness comes with some volatility, and not just to the downside.
You know that my pulse gets up when you're speaking about $10?
I'm sorry. No wonder you don't like it.
I get excited about 10 cents.
I would really love to see 10 cents this year.
I would be happy with 5 cents. And this is me personally. So I'm not speaking to pump my back because I don't get any benefit from this. I'm speaking merely from a factual standpoint where this is what I see could happen given all of the variables that I know exist. Right? And that's all. It could literally happen. It could.
There are some factors at play. Still, I think there's a lot of liquid wallets, a lot less than there used to be. And so we have those guys that need to cycle out. And that's more likely to happen in this low liquidity environment. So I'm hoping the tree gets shaken and keeps getting shaken before, say over the next month or so. Maybe that goalpost in mid-March, will.
But the tree would only be shaking well if we are below 0.5%, in my point of view. If we are at this point, around 1 cent, there is still equal buying and selling pressure.
That's a valid point. That's a valid point because we're not really seeing anything crazy right now. What we're seeing right now is just some people getting out,
Because you still remember like the FAT we got in December or like after the in beginning of February after the first pump, or then mid-May when a whole group of Hexicans stepped away from the project and tried to take user base with them.
Oh really? I missed that one. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean they created a copycat and they sold on the Hex community to then sell them their copycat.
That's hilarious. Well, good luck to them. I don't know who these people are, so that should tell you something, because I've been studying
Hex
Hex
doing
for...
fine.
And also like the February FAT was from a YouTube influencer who like got wrecked trying to arbitrage Hex with the AA lobby and so on. And I mean, this is really a sad story, because at first he brought like 800, 1,000 people into Hex with his referral link. So he so all those people had like 20% less Hex. And then he recommended like a really bad staking behavior. And after that, like few weeks after that, he emergency unstaked his bad staking behavior, paid huge penalties, and then sold on the back of all Hexicans and on the back of his whole community. And then he recommended to his community to do the same, you know.
This is crazy. I got to look into this. I haven't heard this one. This is amazing. Wow. Okay.
That's crypto.
And yeah, I was just about to say, and that's crypto for you. I was just about to say that, because that's 2017 like to me. That's
exactly.
crazy.
I mean, I hope that some of his community members are still staked, or at least that they not only use the AA lobby, so at least like Uniswap once, because then they at least got some airdrop throughout the year.
Yeah, to cover that loss. Wow. If they followed him, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there you go. That's why it helps to know the facts.
Hey Patrick.
Yeah, I already some people mentioned I should read a book in some years, like the first 2 years of Hex.
I was going to ask you, Patrick. I believe, I forget what stream we may have been on together, but I thought our year-end predictions were fairly similar. I think I had said like 12.5 cents, not $10 or $12, but
yeah, I mean,
what was yours?
It was in the last stream of the Exchange, and everybody had like expectations over 30 cents, and my real expectation was like 5 to 20 cents, and because everybody was like higher, I also said like, oh yeah, maybe 15 to 30 cents.
I knew you and I were in the same ballpark.
We can climb that fast, that high.
Yeah, we can.
But the crazy thing is, though,
go ahead.
The crazy thing is, even though if Hex will go up in price for sure. Why? Because new people will come and buy, but those people will not sell because they stake. So this is just the game theory of Hex. It will go up in price. But get this: even though if Hex stays for 1 cent forever, we all will make a killing anyways, because we are staked and earn every day. And this is so crazy. We don't need to price to go up, but it will go up, I'm sure.
I mean, that's the funny thing, right? We actually don't need it to go up. You're still going to make more than the rest of the market that trades. Go figure.
Yeah, that's true, you know, because actually if you're average staker, you have 5 years, 40% would be, you would end up with 200% in the end. If the Hex price is minus 50% from today, you're still in the green.
That's right. Can't lose. That's the funny thing. I mean, Hex is just beautiful, man. Hex is beautiful. Gentlemen, I would like to have you both on at some point in the future so we can talk some more. Because you know my streams run long. I know you guys don't, and I'm sorry for stretching it out, but I would definitely like to have you guys on in the future so we can talk some more, because I know you guys know a whole lot more. I don't have a lot of historical understanding of Hex. I just understand the system. So I would definitely like to get you guys on so we could talk in the future. Maybe Cabana can join us also. I mean, the more the merrier. You guys know I like to have a party on stream, so you know we'll get it together and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, just write us on Twitter or on Telegram.
Sure. Yeah, I follow you guys. Yeah, I definitely will. I'm just trying to work on some stuff. You know, some more charts. I need to push back. Thank you, Patrick, for pushing back, because it needs to happen. I know $10 sounds crazy, but trust me, it's not crazy at all. If you know what Cabana, Cabana and I know about legacy markets, you will completely understand. This is not unimaginable. Now, timing is the issue, but 2023 guaranteed, man. And that's
but you know when I ask you like for this year, and you are anticipating 1,000x in this year,
but that's not impossible though.
Yeah, man,
what are we doing year one? What are we doing year one? What are we doing year one? What are we doing year one?
That Ethereum gets to $100,000 is also not impossible.
No, no. Impossible but probable.
Is also not
impossible but probable. Impossible but probable. You're right. Impossible but probable. That's how we need to talk, right? Because it's not impossible, but is it probable? That's the actual question.
It is possible, but more possible with low liquidity.
Yeah.
Well, we already have low liquidity.
That's what I'm saying. It's more possible with that low liquidity.
We already have a lot of low liquidity.
Is it really? Is it really more possible with this low liquidity? Because still, old people are having millions of HEX.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
If the
like
price
the person that sold today,
if the price hits a certain point, there will be people who don't care if they pay like 30% and penalty, and if they have 10% slippage after that.
You're right.
I'm just saying. I'm talking from the standpoint of volatility, and if there is to be a spike of that magnitude, it's more likely to, I guess, happen on the low liquidity side of things. Absolutely, I agree with you, Patrick. That
won't it create extreme FUD right after that? If we see, like we saw it around New Year, we went from 1.1 cents to 2 cents and down to 1.2 cents.
In one day.
I'm not saying it would
hold in 15 minutes.
I'm not saying it would hold $10. I'm saying it could touch it and then come back down to wherever it was. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the only reason why we don't hit $10 this year is because I will sell the $7.
Well, let me know if I can sell
that's why I also meant it's impossible, Wales, because I know from Abbott that his price is $7. So.
And he's kind of making Patrick's point for him. He's like, there's that sell wall right there.
All right. That's exactly.
He already put it a limit order,
he probably already has it in place on what you call it on
1 inch.
On 1 inch, yeah.
Exactly.
Rap thief is ready to go.
Well, Wales and Cabana, thanks for being on the stream. It was awesome. I learned so much from you guys here in this stream. So thank you very, very much. And I think it would be awesome to be on your stream, Wales, one day as well.
Oh, for sure. I would definitely like to have you guys on. I would like to go through the whole community so everybody can check me on my craziness, because it needs to happen. It needs to happen. Yeah, for sure. I'm not averse to anybody telling me, nah, man, you're crazy. Why do you think that? It needs to happen. And that's what the Hexican community brings. Like, I'm not, like, that's the thing. I only became public because I feel like I could have a conversation with everybody in the community. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. So thank you guys for, having me on your show. I appreciate it. Thank you also, Cabana, for having me on your show as well. I really appreciate everybody's time in the community. I really do.
Heck yeah. Thank you. And thank you, Patrick, in a bit. I have watched your presentations and shows, and I always say on the American side, I'm like, get these guys more subscribers, because the technical level of the content is wonderful. And even though I am still learning and have a lot to learn, I find myself listening to the stream more than once, just trying to understand bits and pieces at a time, especially when you talk with Kyle. That information is so good. It's so good that I'm still trying again to wrap my head around some of it. But
and we had a really funny stream with him as well. It was with his new puppy and so on. It was really fun.
Emergency end stake.
That was classic.
That was so good.
Oh man.
All right, guys. So thanks for the awesome talk today. We are sure we will come definitely to your shows as well. Yeah, just write us. For all the people in the audience, thanks for tuning by. Hit that like or subscribe button if you haven't done so far. Have a great Sunday and a great week for the next week. don't forget to dollar cost average and don't go all in with volatile crypto prices. And yeah, I guess that's it for today.
It was fun. See you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Goodbye. Goodbye.